Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto escapes Hozuki Castle harem. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by grumpywolf and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1 Imprisoned. It wasn't me, Naruto said, almost shouting from indignation. Turning to look at Kakashi behind him, his voice took on a pleading note. Kakashi-sensei, please believe me. Yesterday, I was eating ramen at Ichiraku, and then I played shogi with Shikamaru the whole night. But Kakashi merely kept his silence while Tsunade said, until the truth is revealed, we'll be sending you to Hozuki Castle. What's this Hozuki Castle? Naruto asked. It's a shinobi prison delegated to hidden grass by the other villages, Kakashi finally replied. Anyone can enter there but not everyone can leave, Yamato also added, his arms crossed in front of his chest. It's a place where they restrain problematic shinobi sent to them by the other various villages. Hearing that, Naruto couldn't keep his calm anymore. But I didn't do anything, he yelled, gesticulating wildly with his arms. You can ask Ayam-chan and you can ask Shikamaru too. I was with them the entire evening and night. Anyone could have used a henge to look like me. Besides, Amegakure is like super far away. I'd need like a week or more just to get there and come back, wouldn't I? It doesn't make any sense. Someone must be trying to get me away from the village. Don't be absurd, Naruto. Tsunade yelled back at him and slapped her desk with her palms as she stood up. Kumo wouldn't risk triggering a war on mere suspicions when a foe as dangerous as the Akatsuki is looming over all of us like that. Also, everyone knows your speciality in shadow clones and how much chakra you have. How am I absurd? Kumo also tried to kidnap Hinata-chan when she was little and then blamed us for their shinobi getting killed. I don't want to hear it. Take him away, Tsunade said. Seeing that they wouldn't listen to him, Naruto's hands instinctively went to form the seal for the shadow clone technique, but, as if he had been waiting for that moment the whole time, Yamato suddenly clasped his hands together like in a prayer and shouted, Mokutan, 4 pillars prison. 4 wooden pillars burst from the floor coiled around Naruto's neck and forearms like snakes, completely immobilizing him, before finally taking the shape of a cubic cage. Wait a second, Naruto said desperately as Tsunade stripped his shinobi headband signifying his allegiance to Konoha. It wasn't me. I'm being framed. On his knees, with his hands bound behind his back, a wooden vine wrapped around his neck, and imprisoned in a cage, Naruto pleaded again. It wasn't me. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura-chan. Ba-chan. You know me. I would never do something like that. It wasn't me. I haven't done anything. Hey. So what did you do? A skinny middle-aged man with bluish-gray hair and metallic cuffs on his wrists tried to start a conversation, while all the new prisoners were waiting, in queue for the mandatory body check. Angry from the fire seal that had been placed on him only minutes before by the leader of the prison, and already on the point of exploding with anger from the injustice of having been imprisoned despite being innocent, Naruto shouted at him right away. I already said I haven't done anything, damn it. Chill out, man, the middle-aged prisoner said and leaned back to put some distance between him and the temperamental blonde. Shrugging his shoulders and looking up, he continued casually. As for me, I made a mistake during a mission. Seeing that Naruto began to pay attention to what he was saying, the blue-haired man continued with a small sigh. I was supposed to wipe out a village of civilians, but my conscience struck and I let a kid get away. Then my village found out? What's wrong with that? Naruto asked, genuinely confused and inwardly disturbed by his confession. The middle-aged man threw him a strange look. Which village are you from? Amegakure, Naruto replied. Hee. Looks like Konoha is a pretty soft village, huh? The older prisoner said mockingly. What did you say? Naruto shot back in annoyance. The older man looked at him as if he was a dumb and naive kid as he explained. To a shinobi, the village's command is absolute. Shinobi are tools. We kill who we are told to kill and we steal what we are told to steal. But it looks like that's not how it rolls in your hidden village, huh? In spite of the situation he was in, the Hokage had sent him to prison despite being innocent. Naruto's loyalty to Konoha was still strong. Don't you dare talk bad about the hidden leaf when you don't know anything about it. He yelled and grabbed him by the collar of his top. Just you wait and see. I'll get out of here soon and give the guys who framed me a lesson they'll never forget. Before things could escalate any further, a fellow prisoner wearing a bandana intervened from the side. That's enough. That man is right. This Hozuki Castle is a gathering spot for people who no longer have the pretext where villages cover for them for what they've done. A thief is a thief. A murderer is a murderer. We can't say things like it was for the sake of my village. We have no excuse anymore. We're all just getting what we deserve, reaping what we sowed. The more he was talking to others, the more Naruto was getting pissed off. Nobody wanted to believe that he was innocent. I'm not making any excuses. I've never done any of these things, he shouted incensed. At that moment one of the wardens called out from beyond the prison door, Bandana! It's your turn. Before answering the warden's call, the bandana-wearing prisoner told Naruto one last thing. You should have realized by now that you've fallen into a deep pit. You shouldn't try to make it even deeper. Naruto, being his usual stubborn self, however, had not even considered listening to their advice. That very night, he tried to break out of prison by substituting himself with a shadow clone. But the side effect of using chakra while the fire seal was active on him was too great. Unable to use his ninjutsu or his physical capabilities to their fullest, and not even water and tree walking, he was swiftly captured and thrown into a solitary confinement cell. 3 days later, just defeat Mui, and the seal on your chest will disappear. At an unknown voice's instigation when he had been in solitary confinement, after coming out of the hole, before even getting the chance to have lunch, Naruto jumped at Mui, the leader of the prison. I heard that the Tenra seal will disappear if I defeat you. I don't want to attack someone unprovoked, but if that's the only way, I have no other choice. His face the epitome of indifference, Mui said blandly. Forget it. You cannot defeat me in your current state. Won't know it till I try it. Naruto retorted undaunted and lunged at him, swinging his punch widely. But Mui easily sidestepped his punch and smashed his foot into his stomach. Using the same bland tone from before, as if he had not just kicked someone's air out of their lungs, Mui asked, What is your village to you? When Naruto got up and lunged at him with another wild swing of his punch, Mui kicked him in the stomach once more, sending him flying. Have you ever killed someone whom you had no resentment for, just to protect your village? Struggling to catch his breath from the painful kicks, Naruto said, Are you saying we can't protect our villages without doing that? That's right. Don't fuck with me. Naruto screamed and tried to lunge at him again, but a fiery heat suddenly pulsed in his torso, and he collapsed on his hands and his knees before he could reach his enemy. Even if you didn't do it personally, someone else had to do it. If you've never stained your hands with the blood of innocence, you've lived a fortunate life. But your fortunate life is the result of other people dying and other shinobi from your village taking care of the dirty work instead of you. Not receiving an answer from the boy who was curled up and coughing on the ground, Mui said, It hurts to even breathe, doesn't it? You must be thinking, this can't be happening. That you couldn't have been hurt that badly by a move like that. But when you fight, you will unconsciously draw on your chakra to enhance your strength and speed. And if your chakra as much as twitches, the Tenra seal gets triggered and starts burning up your body. As Naruto was sweating up a puddle from the pain of having his skin and his innards burned by the fire seal, Mui continued, Let me tell you something. No matter how much you've had to bear because of your village, they don't care at all. No matter how great you used to be, it amounts to nothing once you are no longer needed. Your struggle is pointless. You cannot escape from this prison. From the day it was founded, nobody has ever broken out of Hozuki Castle. Furthermore, even if you were to break out somehow, you no longer have a place in Konoha. As the other prison guards grabbed Naruto from his arms and started dragging him away, Mui told him a few last words. You would do well to remember that it was your Hokage that had sent you here. You were discarded just like a broken tool that is no longer needed. You had been cast out. The punishment for breaking the rules of the prison again in such a short time was a longer sentence in the hole this time. Naruto was sentenced to 5 days in solitary confinement instead of 3. Dull gray walls, a cold concrete floor and a square window even more narrow than his head were the only things in the cell. How could they do something like this to me? Naruto thought, and punched the wall with his fist in despair. After everything I did for the village, after how many times I risked my life for them, after how many times I saved them. It was less than a month ago that the godlike leader of the Akatsuki had attacked Konoha and literally erased it off the face of the earth, turning the strongest hidden village in the world into a massive crater. Nearly 80% of Konoha's civilians and more than half of the village's shinobi force had been massacred by pain. However, not only that Naruto had put his life on the line to fight against such a fearsome enemy, but he had somehow even convinced Nagato Uzumaki to bring everyone back to life. Never in Konohagakure no Sato's history had anyone done something as incredible as that for the village. Naruto had become the hero of the leaf. Everyone had finally acknowledged his hard work, strength, and character. Yet there he was now, only a few weeks after being hailed as a hero, framed for a crime that he had never committed and thrown into a prison famous for holding the worst shinobi criminals on the continent. The injustice of it all made him boil with anger. Not for the first time during this second stay in the hole, Mui's words resounded in his ears. Let me tell you something. No matter how much you've had to bear because of your village, they don't care at all. You were discarded just like a broken tool that is no longer needed. He closed his eyes tightly and clenched his fists. Of all the people, Tsunade had been the last he had ever expected to do something like that to him. He had looked up at her as if she was family. Naruto calling her Bachan was not simply to annoy her. To him, Tsunade had been almost like an auntie, or like a grandmother. Laying down on the cold concrete floor, he turned on his other side and let out a shuddering breath. 5 days in complete isolation and loneliness was not a short time for someone like him. Ever since he had become a shinobi, Naruto had hardly ever been completely alone. Even when he was not with his teammates or other friends from Konoha 11, in the worst-case scenario, he still had his shadow clones to keep him company. On some lonely days, as lame as it sounded, he would play card games with his clones or even football. But now, he was completely alone. There were no teammates. No missions. No friends. No Ichiraku. Not even his shadow clones. There was nothing to distract him from his darker thoughts, nothing to take his mind away from his loneliness. There was nothing to stop him from thinking about the injustice he had been dealt at the hands of the village for which he had shed his blood and sweat numerous times. Even I can tell that hatred is spreading. I wanted to do something about it, but I don't know what. But I have faith that there will come a time when people can truly understand one another. But as his deceased mentor's words came to the front of his mind, Naruto couldn't hold in his anger anymore. What understanding each other? Understanding my ass. They threw me in prison without letting me defend myself. I didn't even have a trial. After all I've done for the village, they didn't even want to hear my side. After all that I've sacrificed for them. After all, he trailed off and broke into a sob. He couldn't remember when was the last time that he had cried. Damn it! Damn it all! He shouted and punched the floor repeatedly with the side of his fist. It was while he was crying that an explosion boomed from outside and the entire castle was rocked from its foundations. Greatly startled, Naruto jumped up to his feet and rushed to the tiny window in the back of his prison cell, trying to get a glimpse of what was going on. The gloomy skies above Hozuki Castle were covered by an endless swarm of white butterflies, and in the midst of it all, an angel-winged woman floated calmly, her black and red Akatsuki robe swaying softly in the wind. She was not shouting when she spoke, but her calm voice was heard in every corner of the castle prison. I do not wish to cause unnecessary bloodshed. Give me Uzumaki Naruto, and you will be spared. This is your final warning. Chapter 2 Rogue. I do not wish to cause unnecessary bloodshed. Give me Uzumaki Naruto, and you will be spared. This is your final warning. Naruto was stunned. Is that Konan? What is she doing here? Pain's invasion of Amegakure happened around a month ago, so Naruto had not forgotten about Nagato Uzumaki's right-hand subordinate. Is she here to break me out? He couldn't wrap his head around the idea. He had made peace with Nagato and Konan, and after Nagato sacrificed himself to bring back to life everyone that he had killed, Naruto and Konan separated on a good note, but he had never envisioned a scenario where a former Akatsuki member of all people would one day come to save him from prison, right after his own friends and his village had turned on him no less. Standing on top of the tall walls surrounding Hozuki Castle, the leader of the prison, Mui, glared at the blue-haired woman flying in the sky. From the day Hozuki Castle was founded, none of the prisoners have managed to break out. Go away, Akatsuki. Your kind is not welcome here. The other wardens looked at their leader inwardly startled. Even after the angel-like woman had already attacked the castle, Mui still didn't retaliate. But in their memory, Mui was not the kind of shinobi to ignore such acts, or the type to hesitate when dealing with his enemies. They didn't know that, as one of the highest-ranking shinobi in Hidden Grass, Mui was well aware of Konan's identity and her real strength. A kunoichi that was capable of flight, especially an S-ranked criminal, would almost always have the advantage in battle. I tried giving you a way out. It's all on your head now, Konan said, and her body dispersed into countless tiny paper butterflies. In a matter of moments, the swarm of paper butterflies covered the entirety of Hozuki Castle's walls. His eyes widening at the sight of the thousands of explosive tags that covered the walls and building all over the castle's courtyard, Mui let out a shout at the top of his lungs. Everyone! Get away from the walls! Now! But his warning came a little too late. The majority of shinobi and kunoichi among his subordinates heeded his words and quickly jumped to safety, but most of the wardens at the blood prison were not chakra users. They couldn't escape in time. A chain of explosions was suddenly triggered and the ancient and majestic walls surrounding the castle collapsed in a heap of debris, fire, and dust. With the walls suddenly being brought down like that, hundreds of prisoners cheered at the unexpected windfall and broke into a mad dash towards freedom. But Mui didn't even spare them a glance. As long as the celestial prison technique was active on their bodies, none of the inmates would be able to escape. The moment they went past a certain distance from the caster of that technique, they would combust from within and burn to death. Instead of wasting time fussing over the escaped convicts, Mui went through a short sequence of hand seals and inhaled deeply before spewing out an enormous conic wave of fire. The sky was covered with flames and the whole world seemed to catch on fire. Suddenly, the whistling sound made by a sharp object cutting the air reached his ears and, not even a second later, a 4-foot-wide paper chakram pierced through his sea of fire seemingly unaffected and nearly decapitated him in the process as well. It was only his instincts as an elite jonin that allowed him to dodge it by the skin of his teeth. He couldn't rejoice at his survival just yet because only a moment after nearly grazing the tip of his nose, the paper chakram's trajectory made a 180 turn and came back like a boomerang. A split second before the paper chakram hit him, Mui substituted himself with one of the wardens watching helplessly from the side. A wet squelching sound was heard as the warden was sliced in two from head to toe, the poor man not knowing even at the moment of his death what had killed him. Taking advantage of the brief respite, Mui went through another sequence of hand seals and jumped sharply towards the blue-haired woman floating in midair. Katan, heavenly prison fire sword! He screamed and, as a long dark crimson flaming blade came out from his arm, he slashed with it at Conan in a wide arc. But right before the flaming blade could incinerate her, Conan dispersed in a flurry of paper tags which quickly flew and reformed behind Mui's back. As if he had been waiting for her to do something like that from the beginning, Mui swiftly turned and thrust his flame-coated palm at her while shouting, Katan Tenro! It was his most used technique. It was the fire seal that he used on all the shinobi that had been imprisoned in the Hozuki castle, the jutsu that would seal their chakra away, rendering them no stronger than civilians. When he felt his palm touching solid matter, a small smirk of satisfaction appeared at the corner of his lips at having prevailed over such a powerful and troublesome opponent. Like Conan, no matter who they were, the moment that his celestial prison technique took effect on them, they would lose. But 1 second later, the blue-haired kunoichi started glowing with an ominous light. Any ninja worth their salt knew what was about to happen next, but, unfortunately, he was a step too late to get away. The Conan on whom he had cast his tenro was nothing more than a paper clone consisting of a few hundred explosive tags. A terrible explosion shook the entirety of the castle's courtyard, and all the wardens and convicts fighting against each other at that moment froze in their tracks. For the inmates who had been imprisoned for a long time and for the wardens that had worked under Mui's orders for years, Mui had been solidified in their minds as a powerful, nigh unbeatable shinobi due to his one-shot wind tenro seal. He was one of the strongest and most capable shinobi of the hidden grass. To see that Mui collapsing to the ground as a corpse charred beyond recognition, they could not get over their surprise momentarily. Knowing that everyone's attention was focused on her at that moment, Conan said, I will ask one more time. Where is Uzumaki Naruto? Her manner of speech was calm, but nobody was fooled by that false lack of danger coming from her. Having watched her demolish the large walls of the castle, and then making short work of Mui, her calmness and the myriad of paper tags swarming around her made her look even more dangerous. The moment that Mui died, Naruto felt the tenro seal that was suppressing his chakra vanish, his hands making the familiar hand sign for summoning a shadow clone. A blue orb of chakra appeared in the palm of his hand next, and the outer wall of the hole he had been imprisoned in was blasted to smithereens. But as he jumped out of the cell, his steps paused when he noticed the destruction everywhere around him, and the angel-like woman floating in the middle of the now-ruined courtyard of the castle. Conan? Why are you here? He asked, a note in his neck. The swarm of paper butterflies flying around the courtyard converged on Conan, and she slowly materialized and floated down in front of Naruto. It looks like I made it here in time, Conan said, leaving aside his ripped and ragged clothes and the tear marks that could be seen on his dusty face. Naruto appeared to be relatively well, uninjured. How did you know I was here? Naruto asked another question. And why did you come to save me? Have you forgotten our promise? The hidden rain and I will always support you, Conan said. It was then that Naruto remembered the words that Conan had told him several weeks ago after Nagato's death. Yahiko and Nagato meant everything to me. Yahiko's dream and Nagato's dream, if both of their dreams had been passed to you, then you now embody their dreams. Nagato put his faith in you. So will I. We, the Hidden Rain, will pursue their dreams together with you. Naruto had forgotten about those words. In truth, he had been so busy helping with the reconstruction of the village after pain had turned into a crater that he had not really thought a second time about Conan since then. However, it looked like Conan was a woman of her word. Her promise had not been just empty words, she had really come to help him when she caught wind of his situation. Having spent nearly 8 days in the hole, his anger at the injustice that he had suffered, the pain he felt at Konoha's betrayal, and the feeling of misery stemming from being abandoned by the ones that had seen as his friends, or even family, all those negative emotions had long since reached the point of boiling. But the more his anger was raging at Konoha, the deeper was his gratitude for the one person that had come to rescue him in his darkest hour. "Thank you," he said and looked down, unable to speak another word. The two of them sank into momentary silence, the sounds of fighting and the screams coming from their surroundings taking over instead. "Konoha had cast you out. What will you do from now on?" Conan asked eventually. That question left Naruto stumped for words for a while. I don't know. He had never imagined being in a situation like this. He had never thought about a scenario where his sensei, his Bachan, and his friends would turn their back on him, a world where Konoha would throw him away. After a few moments, Conan said, "We should leave first. You can decide on your future course of action after you've had time to rest and think about it with a clear head." Coming closer to Naruto, 2 large white wings formed at her back as she said, "Take my hands. We are going to fly away." But just as Naruto and Conan clasped their hands together and were about to take off, the pavement underneath their feet cracked, and a tree branch sprouted seemingly out of nowhere. It grew out at an alarming rate, and it attempted to capture both of them at once, splitting in 2 from the middle and getting more branches as it continued to grow. Conan swiftly dispersed into a swarm of papers and Naruto jumped away just as fast as well, avoiding the wood-style technique effortlessly. Back in the hole that he had broken out of, one of Naruto's shadow clones disappeared with a popping sound and a red pigmentation appeared around the real Naruto's eyes, his pupils transforming into horizontal bars. While he had been stuck in solitary confinement, at the cost of the terrible pain that came with forcing himself to use chakra while under the effects of the Tenro seal, Naruto had created a shadow clone to slowly gather natural energy. It was going to be his ticket out of this prison, but Conan ended up coming to his rescue before he could attempt to break out a second time. Entering his sage mode, it took only a moment for all the chakra signatures in the vicinity to appear clearly in his mind's eye. While the wooden branch that had tried to entrap him and Conan had already been an obvious giveaway, his sage senses confirmed his suspicions. Beyond the smoke, fire, and dust that obscured one's visibility in the castle's courtyard, just outside the castle's collapsed walls there were over a dozen people with whom he was very close to. Or he used to. "Naruto! Why are you with the Akatsuki? Get away from her as fast as you can!" An overly familiar yell came from beyond the heap of debris that had once served as the castle's walls. Barely a moment after he heard that yell, a huge octopus tentacle split the air as it slapped in Conan's direction. Conan was just about to evade it by turning herself into a swarm of paper butterflies again, but Naruto unexpectedly jumped in front of her and stopped the enormous tentacle with his body, catching it in his arms. A grunt of exertion came from Naruto as he pulled on the tentacle with all the might his sage mode was capable of, and all the smoke and dust filling the air were suddenly dispersed as an enormous being was lifted in the air and slammed into the other side of the courtyard, demolishing an entire pagoda as it crashed into it. With the smoke and the dust in the courtyard dispersed by the sudden movement of the gigantic-tailed beast, Naruto could finally see the appearance of the ones that attacked him. Most of them were wearing either Konoha's or Kumo's standard uniforms. Apart from the Amegakure shinobi and kunoichi that he wasn't familiar with, Naruto easily recognized Yamato, Kakashi, Tsunade, Sakura, Team 10 and Team 8, Team Guy, Shizen and Sai. "What are you doing, Naruto?" Tsunade shouted. "Why would you attack Killer Bee? Why are you protecting that woman? That's all you have to say?" Naruto asked through gritted teeth. "You fucking sent me here to rot in jail and that's all you have to say? I'm protecting her because she was the one who rescued me. She came to save me after you threw me in prison despite being innocent." He yelled at her incensed. "Oh, would you stop whining already?" Sakura said in a fed-up voice as she stomped towards him and cocked her fist back to smack the crap out of him, just like she always did. "Not this time, Sakura," Naruto said, not using the usual honorifics, as he caught her punch with his hand. "Let go of me, idiot!" She screamed at him and cocked back her other fist, this time intending of using a chakra-enhanced punch to make Naruto come back to his senses. As he was currently in the sage mode, however, Naruto noticed that, and the rage that had been fermenting inside of him for nearly 2 weeks blew up at that moment. Before Sakura could hit him with her devastating punch, Naruto yanked her towards him from the hand that he was holding and smashed his knee into her gut, making spittle come out from her mouth. Still holding her by her right arm, he threw her violently into a nearby building, completely destroying the wall with the force of his throw. The pink-haired girl slumped on the pavement unconscious. What is the meaning of this, Naruto? Kakashi screamed in disbelief. Why would you attack your comrades? But when Naruto turned his head at him, Kakashi involuntarily tensed when he saw the slit crimson pupils in his eyes. What kind of comrades send one of their own to the worst prison on the continent without any evidence, just because some rival hidden village demanded so? Naruto shouted, his voice sounding rougher than normal, a dark tinge to it. Naruto, this is a misunderstanding, Yamato tried to reason with him. It was our strategy to find out what the hidden grass had been plotting this entire time by sending you here. We've been stationed close by the entire time in case anything happened. I see, so it was a mission, Naruto said as if everything finally made sense. That's right. Yamato was quick to confirm, relief settling on his face when he saw that Naruto was convinced that easily by his words. You really thought I was going to believe that bullshit? Do you think that I'm that stupid? Naruto said, his voice quivering as he barely held his rage in. Outside of his control, the birthmarks on his cheeks thickened and darkened. The nails of his hands grew into claws and a red aura visible even to the naked eye appeared around his body. He isn't lying, Naruto. It was a plan created by Konoha and Kumo together. Trust me, Naruto. Shikamaru began to say only for Naruto to cut him off midway. Trust you? We played shogi the entire night before I was arrested. You could have vouched for me but you didn't. Shikamaru became silent, understanding that no matter what he said at that moment, considering Naruto's current mental state, it would only worsen the situation. How many times have I risked my life for the village? How many times have I saved Amegakure? Who among any of you has done more for the village than I did? Naruto screamed this time, finally releasing all his pent-up anger and frustration. And what did I get for it? You threw me in prison despite that I was innocent. You cast me out, he said, tears falling from his eyes but evaporating in the corrosive chakra surrounding his body long before they could roll down his cheeks. He had always been an outcast. Ever since he was a young kid, the villagers treated him like a menace. They talked badly about him when they thought he couldn't hear them. He was shunned by the parents of other kids in the academy and told to stay away from their sons. And it wasn't just once that he noticed the hatred and contempt in their eyes when they looked at him. However, after graduating from the academy, he had saved the village more than once, culminating a bit over a month ago with defeating the leader of the Akatsuki and convincing him to bring all the casualties of his invasion back to life. He had thought that things were finally coming around for him. Especially after saving the village from pain, he had been praised as the hero of the leaf. It was all a sham, he said, his voice now calm and his tears dried. I've had enough of Konoha. But when Naruto turned around, Tsunade shouted after him, Do you realize what you're doing, Naruto? Are you going to defect from the village? I know exactly what I'm doing, he said without turning around. What about your promise? You swore that you'd become the Hokage. Are you going to renege on that? Naruto said nothing in return. Instead, he told the Konin, Let's go, Konin. Receiving a nod of confirmation from her, the two of them jumped away, intending to leave. However, it was not going to be that easy for them to escape. Having recovered by then from the brutal slam, the transformed killer bee sent half of his enormous tentacles at them, and he wasn't the only one attacking them. Yamato cast another wood-style technique to entrap them and Kakashi slapped his palm against the ground, summoning one of his dogs. You must be crazy if you think you can escape from all of us. Gutsuga! Kiba yelled before he and Akamaru cast the special taijutsu move of the Inuzuka clan. Naruto cancelled his sage mode and quickly put his hands in a cross as he ran. Tajukage Bunshin no Jutsu. Over 1,000 clones suddenly made the large courtyard of the Hozuki castle appear crowded, and their voices made the air shudder as half of those 1,000 clones shouted. Together, Henge, 500 clones took on the appearance of Konin, imitating her perfectly before they all partnered up with one of the normal clones and scattered in pairs of 2 everywhere. Despite initially having superiority in numbers and combat strength too on their side, Konoha and Kumo's shinobi and Kunoichi could only watch helplessly as the stupidly high number of clones scattered in all directions 2 by 2. They didn't even attempt to stop them anymore. It was impossible to catch over 1,000 clones that had Naruto's capabilities with only so few of them. And, if the title of the FIC wasn't an obvious enough hint that Naruto would not want to go back to Konoha and that he'd become a missing nin, this chapter obviously removed any doubts you might have had about that. Honestly, I'm so freaking hyped about the plot of this story too. Examples: what is going to happen when Obito comes to kill Konin but Naruto is together with her? What if Naruto and Konin destroy the Rinnegan? What would happen with Obito's plans? What if Naruto himself gets the Rinnegan? What about Danzo and Konoha? Would they just sit and watch how their Jinchuriki slipped out of their grasp? Etc. There are so many possibilities. Until next time. Chapter 3 Coup. One more! A blonde woman shouted after downing a whole bottle of sake in one breath. One more coming, the bartender answered meekly and served her 3 more bottles instead of just one. By the time she was done drinking, it was in the wee hours of the morning. Barely keeping herself standing, she wobbled out of the bar slowly, leaning against walls and fences as she made her way towards the outskirts of the village. She didn't want to return to the Hokage Tower just yet. Though she could dispel the alcohol flooding her system in a second, she refused to do so. She needed that buzz. She didn't feel strong enough to deal with reality without its help at that moment. However, the cool air of the morning brought back some clarity, and along with it, memories of the previous day started playing at the front of her mind. I'm protecting her because she was the one who rescued me. She came to save me after you threw me in prison despite being innocent. Maybe because she was drunk, or maybe because she was simply at her limit. Tsunade started crying softly as she wobbled down the empty streets all alone. Things weren't supposed to end up like that. She had never imagined that her decision to leave Naruto clueless about the truth would bring about such an outcome. She had just not been able to trust his intelligence, and tell him that he was being sent on a mission, instead of letting him believe that he got cast out and abandoned. I should have pressured the Raikage to send Killer Bee to Hozuki Castle instead of Naruto. I should have been more insistent. Konoha and Kumo suspected that Kusugakure was preparing for something big and they decided to nip it in the bud because they couldn't afford to let them start another war. Not while the Akatsuki threatened to take over the world by acquiring all the tailed beasts and doing God knew what with them. In order to catch them red-handed, however, they needed to throw some bait. In this scenario, the only thing that would bait Kusa into acting out was to send them a Jinchuriki, someone with chakra reserves large enough to tempt Kusugakure into opening the box of ultimate bliss. But Uzumaki Naruto and Killer Bee were the only 2 Jinchuriki left, and the Raikage considered Bee as his brother in all but blood. Therefore, Naruto was the only option left, as much as he was unfit for an espionage mission. Tsunade wiped her face with her palms and let out a shuddering breath. How am I going to make it up to him? She thought bitterly. Naruto's reaction had caught her off guard, but thinking about it again, it was only natural for someone to react like that in his shoes. However, he was Naruto. Naruto never remained mad at his precious people for long, and he was extremely quick to forgive. Many things that would be highly offensive if done to other people, Naruto usually accepted them without saying anything, like the way Sakura often used him as a punching bag. But everyone had a limit, and, even with how forgiving and tolerant Naruto was, Tsunade understood that being thrown in jail so cold-heartedly despite being innocent had been the last straw that broke the camel's back. I can only hope he has calmed down a little in the meantime. She wished that he would at least be willing to let her properly explain the situation and apologize when they met next time. She hoped he would stop being mad and return to the village soon. Suddenly, 2 hands burst from the ground and grabbed her by the ankles. Normally, someone would find it next to impossible to sneak up on her, but as she was drunk and consumed by her thoughts of guilt, Tsunade didn't notice the chakra signature of her stalker until it was too late. This is bad. Tsunade wanted to shout, only to find out she couldn't move her mouth or any part of her body at all. In the next moment, she was covered by black lines and symbols from head to toe. It was a cursed seal. When her attacker grabbed her by the ankles, they also placed a curse seal on her. Not even a second later, the blade of a tanto glinted in the moonlight as it slashed towards her neck. An earthly yellow haze of chakra burst out of Tsunade's body and, with an enraged scream, she broke the curse seal's paralysis with her monstrous brute strength. With the attacker's tanto now only inches away from her neck, Tsunade unexpectedly opened her mouth and caught the blade with her teeth. The attacker was forced to give up on his weapon when she bit on the blade and shattered it as if it was made of graphite, not chakra metal. In the next moment, Tsunade's fist smashed into her enemy's chest, their body exploding into a fine red mist from her unreal strength. To think that my own ANBU would try to kill me one day, and in the middle of the village no less, Tsunade said, having recognized the white porcelain mask of the ANBU operative who used to be part of her personal guard. Your ANBU? ANBU is not yours. ANBU don't serve you, it serves the village. Tsunade heard the voice of an old man coming from behind the trees. As he stepped into the moonlight, his identity became as clear as day. The old and wrinkled face half covered by bandages, the right arm perpetually in a cast, and the cane. It was Danzo Shimura. Jiraiya did tell me to be wary of you, but I've never thought you'd go as far as to try to assassinate the Hokage. Has old age made you go completely senile? Tsunade said. My mind has never been clearer, I assure you of that, Tsunade, Danzo said as he started taking out the bandages and the golden cast around his right arm. Only a madman would attempt to commit the highest treason, Tsunade said with a scoff. Highest treason? Hardly. I serve Konoha. Everything I do is for the sake of the village. Danzo said coolly. Then where the fuck were you when the leader of the Akatsuki invaded the village? Tsunade screamed at him, finally losing her patience. My slug summons were spread over the entire village, but I didn't see a glimpse of you anywhere. I died of chakra exhaustion from healing as many people as I could, and thousands of other shinobi and kunoichi lost their lives in battle while you were lurking like a coward in some godforsaken bunker, waiting for the danger to pass. Was that also for the sake of the village, you old hypocrite? And in what way does it even benefit Konoha if I died now when the Akatsuki is trying to take over the world? Danzo was not one to let his emotions get the better of him, but Tsunade's words made his face stiffen. They had hit a sore spot. Danzo's cowardice in his youth was what had made Tobirama choose Sarutobi Hiruzen as his successor instead of him. To this very day, many decades later, it was still Danzo's biggest regret in life. It's because of the precarious future ahead of us that you need to be removed. You allowed the last Uchiha to go rogue and haven't eliminated him, or at least recovered his Dijitsu even after 3 years passed. You failed in capturing the three-tailed beast. And now, you alienated Konoha's ultimate weapon, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. You are not fit to. Danzo's words were cut short as the upper half of his body exploded like a geyser of blood and gore, the aftershocks of Tsunade's punch also mowing down several dozen trees behind him as well. I was right to not let my guard down against someone like you. Danzo's voice came from the side, greatly startling Tsunade, who had thought him dead. How is this possible? Genjutsu? Tsunade thought in disbelief, but she dismissed that thought right away. It was impossible for anyone to put her under a genjutsu. Her chakra control was too exquisite. She would have noticed the irregularity in her chakra flow instantly. Fu, keep your distance and wait for the perfect moment. Torian, you only need to touch her once. Akimichi, engage in close quarters. Everyone else, assist with ninjutsu and shurikenjutsu from mid-range. Danzo gave those commands using hand signs rather than words, and the Black Ops shinobi immediately sprung into action. Old age really must have messed with your mental faculties, if you truly thought you could take me down with only this. Danzo had not underestimated Tsunade. Before starting this assassination attempt, he had gathered almost all the root members in the village at that moment just to kill her, over 30 of them, all at Tokubetsu Jonin, or a higher level. But the reality in front of him was that like out of a nightmare. In less than 5 minutes, the slug Sannin had killed over 15 of his root in such an overly brutal and violent manner that even the slaves that he had brainwashed to serve him appeared to start showing signs of hesitance. Furthermore, 6 out of the 10 Sharingan embedded into his right arm had been closed permanently. Tsunade had already killed Danzo 6 times in less than 5 minutes. The Sannin were renowned across the elemental nations, and Danzo had always had accurate information in regard to Orochimaru and Jiraiya's level of strength, but Tsunade had faded into obscurity after the end of the Third Shinobi War, choosing to drink and gamble her money away. Danzo had never expected her to have cultivated such a terrifying level of strength. It did not pale in comparison to that of her now-dead teammates at all. No, she's even more dangerous, Danzo thought as he watched how the bloody holes he created in Tsunade's thigh with his vacuum bullets wind technique were fully healed in a second. Tsunade's clothes had been turned to rags from how many times Danzo and his root had slashed, stabbed and hit her with their ninjutsu and weapons, but other than that, her body appeared in perfect condition. She was like an undying zombie. An undying zombie that could make huge craters and turn bodies into minced meat with a mere punch. Suddenly, Danzo let out a loud scream. Now! A shadow suddenly appeared on the ground, illuminated by the moonlight, and momentarily immobilized Tsunade. At the same time, Danzo went through a quick series of hand seals, and thick tree roots and vines burst from the ground to wrap tightly around her body. But Tsunade's physical strength was simply too powerful. Sweat started pouring down the Naro's face like a cascade, and Danzo also felt his Mokutan jutsu starting creaking and wailing. It was only a second before she broke completely free that a Yamanaka member of the root also yelled, "Ninja art! Mind-body switch technique!" Tsunade's body slumped a bit, but the Yamanaka shouted in a warning to his colleagues, "She's resisting my jutsu. I couldn't catch her fully. You have 20 seconds at most." A huge Fuma shuriken appeared in Danzo's hands, and, as he blew air on its blades, he engulfed it with wind chakra before he threw it at Tsunade. The other root shinobi and kunoichi also threw a rain of kunai and shuriken from the distance, not taking the risk of getting close to her and ending up dead when she snapped out of Yamanaka's jutsu. But the Yamanaka's estimations had been grossly exaggerated, as Tsunade didn't need even 5 seconds to snap out of his technique, and, letting out a loud battle cry, She bulldozed through the shadow, binding the Mokutan Jutsu, restraining her before clasping her hands with such strength that the shockwave burst from the clap of her palms was, like a hurricane, completely blowing away all the projectiles sent her way, even Danzo's wind-coated Fuma shuriken. It was in the split second after she created that powerful shockwave that someone appeared at her back like a phantom, and the darkness of the night was temporarily chased away. Raikiri. Tsunade looked at the lightning-coated hand coming out of her chest in disbelief. Kakashi? Why? Was the only thing she could say before she stumbled forward and collapsed on her knees. Not missing out on the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, two of the still-alive root operative instantly shunned shine next to her, their blades glinting in the moonlight as they both beheaded the slug Sannin at the same time. In spite of achieving his mission, Danzo felt no elation. The last shockwave that Tsunade created by clapping her palms had reaped the lives of another half a dozen of his root, when their projectiles were flung back at them. In less than 10 minutes, a drunk Tsunade had all but obliterated his entire organization, and he had lost 6 of his Sharingan eyes too. This was too close. If I hadn't obtained Kakashi's loyalty before this assassination, we would have all died at her hands. Until the moment of her death, Tsunade didn't understand why had Kakashi suddenly turned on her and sided with Danzo. Seeing his shinobi attempting to clean the scene and remove all signs of battle, Danzo said, "We don't have any time left. The rest of the route can't hold off the AMBU for much longer. We have accomplished our objective. Leave everything as it is." Scatter! It started raining again, he thought, and put on the hood of his gray cloak as he walked down one of the main streets of the village. In spite of the fact that it rained day and night, the people around him didn't seem as affected by it as he was. Young couples were sharing umbrellas as they window shopped. Children were running around with no care in the world as they splashed rainwater at each other, and old people were standing under the eaves of their homes or on their porches, puffing from their pipes and drinking sake as they gossiped about the latest news with their neighbors and friends. It doesn't even feel like a hidden village, he thought as he compared it in his mind with Konoha. Although Konoha was one of the more relaxed hidden villages, it was still a common occurrence to see Chunins patrolling the streets, and even some ANBU every once in a while. But Amegakure appeared more like a town of civilians. "I miss my old place." As he compared AIM with Konoha, he couldn't lie to himself. He missed his former village. He missed his friends, his favorite ramen shop, Team 7's training ground, his little apartment, and he missed his Bachan and Sakura more than all. But whenever his mind went back to Tsunade and Sakura, anger would come back to him, and his homesickness would vanish too. Damn it! Even 2 weeks after Konan broke him out of the Hozuki castle, Naruto could not let go of his anger. On the contrary, due to not having a way to release his pent-up frustration and due to a lack of activity or work to take his mind off his problems, his grudge and his anger only continued to fester and worsen inside of him. He had never felt like that before in his entire life. He had always been a predominantly happy person, with a sunny disposition, and a penchant for being quick to forgive and forget. So why couldn't he go back to being like he was before? What was the rage smoldering in his veins whenever his mind went back to Konoha? And why were his sweet memories of the village slowly being overrun by memories that he had forgotten he still had? Memories of other kids joining hands to rough him up in the academy. Memories of random villages spewing vitriolic words at him. Memories of Irika often singling him out in the academy, and using him as a negative example to his classmates. Memories of Kakashi giving Sasuke preferential treatment during the month before the last stage of the Chunin exams, and dumping him to a useless Jonin who hated his guts. Memories of Konoha completely ignoring his incredible feat of defeating Gaara and the fully manifested Ichibi and not promoting him to the rank of Chunin. And the torrent of bad memories wouldn't stop at that. Scenes of Jiraiya throwing him off the cliff or purposely enraging him to the point of nigh madness just to bring out Kyuubi's chakra. Memories of Jiraiya ditching him in order to fool around with hookers. The numerous times Sakura punched him for even the slightest inconvenience he caused her. The memory of Kiba often mocking him and putting him down for his dream, or the memory of Akamaru taking a piss on his face while he was sleeping, etc. It was as if until then he had looked at the world through a pair of rose-tinted glasses, but now that he took them off he couldn't tear his eyes away from the ugliness that he had overlooked before. It was as if a side of his personality that he had forcefully shut down up until that moment was now finally coming to the surface and trying to take over. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Outside of his control, his eyes gained a blood-red color, and the thin birthmarks on his cheeks became darker, as his rage facilitated Kyuubi's chakra's infiltration into his system. I can't continue like this, Naruto thought, and his steps quickened. I have to find something to do or else I'll go crazy. And going crazy was the last thing he needed at that moment. I can't inconvenience Conan any more than I already do. He wasn't exactly the most capable person when it came to matters related to money and the economy, but even he understood that Amegakure was currently not in a good spot. He didn't want to make more problems for Conan. The Land of Rain didn't have a daimyo to sponsor the hidden village in it, and the country itself was completely isolated from the outside world. There was no diplomatic contact with their neighbors. Not even merchants were allowed to pass Aim's borders. Under Nagato Uzumaki's rule, the village hidden in the rain had experienced a period of development, peace, and wealth like never before in its entire history. However, Nagato was dead and Conan was no longer part of the Akatsuki either. With Aim completely isolated from their neighbors and with its previous source of income gone, Akatsuki's activities, the village's economical situation was in dire straits. Erosenin died almost 3 months ago, but the destruction left by his battle with Nagato is still here. They haven't repaired anything. Thinking of that, Naruto was suddenly struck by an idea. What if I helped Conan with repairing that damage? It seemed like a good way for him to repay her for what she had done for him. After my friends in my village abandoned me, she's the only one who took my side. In his darkest hour, Conan had been the only person to come to his rescue. Helping her out was the least he could do to show his gratitude. Suddenly invigorated by finding a new goal for himself, Naruto's spirits rose as he broke into a shinobi sprint towards the tallest tower located at the center of the jungle of steel and concrete known as the Hidden Village in the Rain. Chapter 4 Vengeance. As Pain's tower appeared in his sight, Naruto's sprint gradually slowed to a walking pace. Although in Konoha he used to not care about his manners and often burst into Sandame's and Tsunade's office without even knocking, that was due to his familiarity with them. In Aim, he subconsciously restrained himself from acting like that. I need to speak to Conan. Can you tell her that I am here? Naruto said to the 2 shinobi that could be seen standing guard in front of the doors leading to Conan's office. Please wait a moment, one of them replied politely and, after knocking twice on the door, he went inside to let Conan know of his arrival. Not for the first time since he arrived in Amegakure, Naruto was inwardly taken aback by people's attitude towards him. He was not used to others treating him so politely. Amegakure was completely shut off from the outside world, so there was nobody except for Conan who knew his real identity. However, everyone that was aware of the fact that he was in Conan's good graces was treating him with their utmost respect. It made him understand all the more just what kind of position Pain and Conan were holding in their subjects' hearts. Tenshi-sama agreed to your request. Please follow me, the guard said when he returned and opened the door wider for Naruto to come in. Despite how much more modern and technologically advanced Amegakure looked with its tall metallic skyscrapers and its intricate systems of pipes compared to Konoha, Conan's office didn't look much different from Hokage's office that he was familiar with. To the right of the room, there was a gray desk with rounded corners and a black leather chair, while on the opposite side, windows as large and as wide as the office itself offered a great view of the hidden village's cityscape. Hello, Naruto. Is something the matter? Is there something you need? Conan momentarily put down the piece of paper she was reading and looked up at him. At the same time, she signaled her shinobi to leave them alone. I've been thinking, is there anything I can help you with? Naruto asked. Conan adopted a pondering expression as she put her elbows on the desk and interlocked her fingers. What brought this on? Has anyone given you a hard time? No, he said quickly. Everyone is so polite that it's weird. I just wanted to do something, anything to be of help. Seeing Conan keeping silent, he added, I saw the place where Erosenin and Nagato fought. I was thinking, maybe I could try to clean it up. If you had to hire someone, you'd need a few dozen of people and it'd take weeks just to move away the debris. But I can make hundreds of shadow clones, I'd get it done in no time. He said and grinned. Conan stood up from her seat and went to the large windows, gazing at the sight of the village below. I appreciate your thoughts. But it would be better if you waited until tomorrow morning. It's getting late and from today onwards, there will be a curfew starting from 8 o'clock. Curfew? You mean like a rule for people not to come out of their homes after that hour? As Conan put her hands behind her back, unintentionally making her chest stand out, Naruto realized that it was the first time he was seeing her without her Akatsuki cloak. However, he quickly tore his eyes away from her and looked at the village below as well. I have no reason to hide it from you. Naruto Aim is not in a great situation currently. Ever since we killed Hanzo almost 6 years ago, Nagato chose to isolate Aim completely from the outside world, and it has worked for us due to how lucrative our activities as Akatsuki have been. Interpreting Naruto's look as a form of reproach, she explained. Long before Akatsuki started hunting down Jinchuriki, we've been an elite group of mercenaries taking on all kinds of missions. Many hidden villages frequently hired our services, and a large part of that income came to Amegakure. Hidden villages used to hire Akatsuki? Naruto said, scandalized. Yes, Conan said, her tone never changing from the beginning until now. For example, Sasuke was one of our biggest customers. Amegakure often employed our services as well. We've even made business with Konoha too at some point. But with Nagato dead and Akatsuki effectively disbanded, that significant source of income has disappeared. Taking Naruto's silence as a sign to continue, Conan said, we are more than self-sufficient when it comes to food, clothes, and other products necessary for our daily lives. Before the Shinobi Wars brought aim to ruin, the Land of Rain used to be one of the biggest exporters of rice, fish, and canned food. Nevertheless, there are also things that we could never make by ourselves, such as electricity. Over the past 6 years, we have been using the deposits of coal stockpiled before, during Hanzo's reign, but those deposits are now dwindling. And not only that, we don't have the funds to buy new resources, we don't have from to who either. Naruto had never given any thought to such things before. He hadn't known how electricity was created, and he had never realized how many troublesome and difficult things the leader of a village had to handle. Can't AIM trade something else for that thing instead of money? You said the Land of Rain has plenty of food. No, the Land of Wind is a desert. I think they could buy lots of food because they can't grow anything there, Naruto said, trying to come up with a solution on the spot. Conan let out a soft sigh. We haven't engaged in official diplomacy and commerce with our neighboring countries in almost 6 years, Conan said. Furthermore, even if we had the means to trade for coal, now that the world knows that Akatsuki came from the Land of Rain, who would want to do business with us? But Naruto suddenly came closer to her and said energetically, I think I can help with that. Gaara, the Kazekage, is my friend. But does the Land of Wind have coal? Conan shook her head as she said, the Land of Wind doesn't have coal, but they have rich reserves of natural gas and oil. But Akatsuki captured Gaara and he died. What makes you think he'd ever want to trade with Amegakure? Gaara is my friend. I'm sure that but his words remained stuck in his throat. He was unable to continue when he thought that it was also his friends that sent him to prison despite that he was innocent. Nevertheless, he shook his head and tried to smile when he saw Conan looking at him with concern. The next day, are you sure about this? You should know that Konoha won't give up on their Jinchuriki that easily, Conan said. I have to at least try. I can't just stay hidden in AIM all the time, and I want to help you, he said with a small smile and rubbed the back of his head. Thank you, Naruto, she said and smiled softly at him. For the first time since he came to Amegakure, Naruto saw Conan smile. That gentle smile on her porcelain doll-like face was like a ray of sun peeking through the clouds. He was momentarily stunned. You helped me when nobody would, Naruto said. I'll do anything in my power to return the favor. Moving his eyes away from her face with difficulty, he looked at the scroll in her hands. Give this to the Kazekage. It's my official letter as the leader of Amegakure. But don't reveal everything about Amegakure's situation to him, even if he's your friend. I understand. Losing a Jinchuriki is a heavy blow to a hidden village. Konoha won't just let you be. Although you said you trust the Kazekage, Suna and Konoha are allies after all. You never know what he might do. Stay sharp. Stay safe. Naruto's first intention was to retort that Gaara would never do something like that, but he remained silent. If Gaara was forced to choose between Sanegakure's well-being and his friendship with him, Naruto was not confident that Gaara would choose him. He was not an expert in history and politics, but he knew that war being started over a Jinchuriki or a tailed beast was not impossible. Far from that. Konoha and Kumo almost went to war when Kumo's diplomat was killed by Hinata's father. The ownership of 9 tails was far more important than that. Despite that his robes were covered in blood and the white bandages covering his arm and face were stained with dirt and sweat, Shimura Danzo had an expression of bliss, peace, and happiness on his face. Leaning back as far as he could in the Hokage's comfortable Hokage, he watched over the still sleeping village through the large windows of the office. For how many years had he yearned for the seat? For how long had he fought to step out of the shadows and lead the village hidden in the leaf from the light? Today, his dream had finally come true. Without his knowledge, over an hour passed as he basked in the feeling of having finally accomplished his wish. By now, the darkness started fading away. It was almost like a metaphor for his life. His days of walking through the darkness were over. From now on, he would step proudly into the sun and lead the village to a new era of prosperity. He would be the one to make Konoha great again. Beautiful, he found himself letting out a sigh as he admired the sight of the first rays of sun shining from beyond the Hokage monument and illuminating the village below. Beautiful, indeed. When he heard that voice coming from behind him, Danzo jumped up to his feet as if electrocuted. It was almost comical how he had turned around robotically before uttering out with a stutter, I am possible. I see you've gotten quite comfortable in my chair. As the newcomer stepped closer to the desk, Danzo's face became as white as a sheet of paper. How are you still alive? Your heart was obliterated. I saw you getting beheaded, Danzo shouted as he forcefully ripped the bandages covering his right eye and glared at her with his Sharingan. Boo! He screamed when he realized that it wasn't a genjutsu that he was seeing. Your Black Ops shinobi are all dead, Tsunade said and raised her hand to show him that it was covered with fresh blood. You will pay with your blood for what you did, Danzo. I swear it on my life. A smoke bomb suddenly went off and the sound of glass being broken was heard as Danzo jumped through the window before he used a body flicker technique to run away. You won't escape! She screamed enraged. My name isn't Tsunade if I won't rip apart your limbs one by one today. You and each one of the traitors that attacked me last night, none of you will be spared. The floor of the Hokage office suddenly cracked like a spiderweb and collapsed in a heap of rubble as Tsunade jumped away with all her strength, leaving a sonic boom behind. Danzo just came out from his body flicker movement when someone unexpectedly grabbed him by the back of his high-collared robe and he felt the air leave his lungs as he was suddenly lifted up and thrown away like a cannonball, all the way to the outskirts of the village, into the woods. But his decades of experience as a shinobi allowed him to maintain his composure, and he quickly went through a series of hand seals. A mass of soft-looking wooden vines came out of his body and encased him completely, like a cocoon. The wooden cocoon smashed into several dozen trees before it finally came to a stop. When the vines parted, Danzo crawled out of the cocoon seemingly unharmed, but he was so dizzy that he suddenly bent over and emptied the contents of his stomach on the ground. But when he straightened his back and wiped his mouth with his sleeve, Tsunade appeared in front of him like a phantom. By the time he saw that her hand was right in front of his face, it was too late. He had no time to react whatsoever as Tsunade's hand moved like a viper and plucked out his right eye, just like Danzo had done a decade ago when he stole that eye from Shursui. Danzo could only gnash his teeth when he saw Tsunade squash his precious Mangekyo Sharingan into a bloody paste, but he did not waste even a split second before he disappeared, with another shunshin. I need to get away. I have to buy some time, he thought as he quickly went through another series of hand seals and momentarily stopped to slam his palm on the ground. The ground quaked and ruptured as tree roots and vines started growing out, and loud sounds of wood creaking were heard as a gigantic creature of wood came to life. That technique was a pale imitation of Senju Hashirama's wood giant, but even then, it was enough to make most shinobi and kunoichi that saw it become weak in the knees. It drained an enormous amount of chakra to cast that technique, but Danzo did not have a choice at that moment. If he did not buy some time to take off the shackle sealing his Sharingan arm, he wouldn't be able to cast his Inagi. And without his Inagi, he did not have any chance of surviving the enraged slug Sannin. Right after he summoned the wood giant, Danzo stopped and ripped the bandages covering his right arm, revealing the golden bracers encasing it. He quickly pushed one of the bolts out, and he was in the middle of taking out the second two when a huge hole was smashed open into the wood giant, obliterating it. Damn it! Danzo cursed in panic as he tried to take out the third, and last, bolt holding the golden bracers shut. However, he could only watch in disbelief as his right arm fell on the blanket of leaves covering the ground. He had not been able to take out the third bolt before Tsunade chopped his arm from the shoulder. I told you I would kill you, Tsunade said in a dark voice and kicked him in the gut with enough strength to only make him fall on the ground coughing in pain, not to kill him. But I'm a woman of my word, so I won't let you have an easy death. I promised I'd rip your limbs one at a time, didn't I? Putting her foot on his chest, she suddenly yanked on his left arm, ripping it out from the shoulder too and making him scream out in agony. She was about to go on to the next limb, one of his legs, when she saw black ink starting to pour out from his torso. I may have let my guard down once, but it won't happen again, she said. The air appeared to distort around her right hand and the aura of yellow chakra enveloping her body became visible to the naked eye as she punched down with her entire strength. That terrible brute strength reduced Danzo's entire body into a paste of blood and the ground underneath them was turned into a massive crater. The shockwave from her monstrous strength alone flattened all the trees several hundred feet outside of the crater. With no medium to fuel it anymore, the self-destructing seal that Danzo had cast to take Tsunade to the grave together with him faded into nothingness too. Uncaring of the gore splattered all over the ground, Tsunade lay down on her back in exhaustion. The black marks covering her entire body sank back into the rhombus-shaped purple dot on her forehead, and she closed her eyes as she tried to regain her breath and calm down her racing heart. She had not gone all out in a fight in years, and she had never been as close to death as she was last night. If Katsuya had not reverse summoned me to Shikatsu Forest, I would have died. Unlike a few hours ago, since it was morning, A team of Chunins tasked with duty patrol that day appeared a few minutes later to investigate the disturbance. Sensing the chakra signatures of the incoming shinobi, Tsunade forced herself to stand up, reminding herself that it was not over. I don't know how many had sided with Danzo last night, and I don't know their identities either, but I won't rest until I purge Konoha of them all. Putting a hand over her chest, her eyes narrowed in anger. She didn't know the identity of all the masked shinobi, but she definitely recognized the lightning blade that had pierced her heart. She was going to make Kakashi pay with his life. Chapter 5 S-Ranked Mission. The Land of Wind shared a border with the Land of Rain, but that did not mean that Naruto's trip from Amegakure to Sunagakure was short. Sunagakure was located deep into the Land of Wind's desert. It was only after nearly 4 days of arduous travel through the desert that he finally arrived in front of the huge sandstone walls surrounding the village hidden in the desert. Identify yourself and state your reason for entering Sunagakure, one of the Chunin guarding the entrance to the village said. All 6 Suna shinobi were looking at him with an expression of vigilance on their faces, ready to draw their weapons at any moment. After Akatsuki's attack on the village and the kidnapping of Gaara, although nearly a year had already passed, they were still cautious and suspicious of any potential threats. Naruto pulled down the hood of his gray cloak, revealing his appearance to them. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. I wish to speak with Gaara. Uzumaki Naruto? The Chunin in charge said in surprise. Although he was from a different village, Uzumaki Naruto was famous in Suna for having saved the life of their Kazekage. Furthermore, the news that Konoha had been saved from the leader of the Akatsuki by none other than Naruto had also traveled to the Land of Wind by now. Nowadays he was known by them as the hero of the leaf. We need to confirm your identity. Bear with us for a moment, the Chunin said. Making a one-handed ram seal, he pointed with his other hand at Naruto and let out a low shout. Kai! It was only after they confirmed that his appearance was not a henge that they allowed him entry. As he followed the Suna Chunin, unlike all the previous times he had visited Suna, Naruto took a good look at the village from observing the way people were dressed and how they interacted with each other to the appearance of the streets, shops, and civilian buildings. Unlike Konoha, which was built in a fan shape with the Hokage monument as the head, or Amegakure with its skyscrapers and its grid street pattern, Sunagakure was built in a circular shape, with the Kazekage's tower at the center and 8 tall and wide walls splitting the village into 8 symmetrical parts. It looks like Suna has recovered from the attack a year ago, Naruto said while they passed by a bustling bazaar filled with people selling, buying, and haggling over prices. Yes. Kazekage-sama's diplomatic relationship with Konoha has done wonders for our village, the Suna shinobi said. Soon, they arrived at their destination, and after leaving Naruto in the care of Kage Tower's bodyguards, the Chunin returned to his post at the gates of the village. Naruto! I had not expected you to come to Suna. But it's good to see you, Gaara said as he stood up from his seat and came to greet Naruto when he entered his office. Naruto found himself smiling at Gaara's warm welcome. It's good to see you too, Gaara, he said, and the two shook hands. How have you been? And how are Temari and Kankuro? Temari went on a trip to Konoha as my delegate. As for Kankuro, he is out on a mission. Naruto and Gaara had not spent that much time together, but, as Jinchuriki and as enemies turned friends, the two of them felt a connection with each other. For Gaara, in particular, Naruto was his savior. After inviting Naruto to take a seat, ever the honest and direct person, Gaara said, I heard what happened between you and Konoha. To think that there would be a day when Uzumaki Naruto, of all people, would become a rogue ninja, I could have never imagined it. The loyalty and love you had for your village was something I have not seen in many other people. And that's why their betrayal had cut all that much deeper, Naruto said curtly. Gaara took on a thinking posture as he interlocked his fingers and rested his chin on his hands. From what I understand, nobody really believed you were the culprit. From the beginning, everything was just a plan to bait Kusugakure into showing their cards and exposing their plot, said Gaara. But as it was always the case after escaping from the Hozuki castle, every time he was reminded of how he was unjustly arrested and thrown into prison, Naruto couldn't keep his cool. The more he talked about it, the more he felt his ire rising. I find that hard to believe. And even if that was the case, why didn't anyone tell me anything? Did they really have that little trust in me? After all the times I've saved the village, after everything I sacrificed for them. Realizing that his voice was starting to resemble a shout now, Naruto suddenly stopped talking and looked to the side. After letting out a sigh, he said, Never mind that. Whatever was there between me and Konoha, it's all in the past. I didn't come here to talk about them. To everyone who knew him, Uzumaki Naruto was someone who always wore his emotions on his sleeve. He laughed when he felt like laughing, he screamed when he felt like screaming. And he punched people in the face when he felt like doing that too. It was unlike him to stop his outbursts and control his emotions like that, and Gaara didn't miss that change in his behavior either. A momentary silence was instilled. I came here as a diplomat, representing the Land of Rain, Naruto said after a while and took out a scroll from a pouch strapped to his waist. The Land of Rain? Gaara said, his eyes widening in surprise. Don't tell me, Naruto, did you ally yourself with Akatsuki? I understand you don't like Konoha anymore, but is your desire for vengeance so high that you'd even go as far as to seek Akatsuki's help? They're the ones who are trying to hunt down all the Jinchuriki. The Akatsuki isn't affiliated with the Land of Rain anymore, Naruto said. Konan, Pain's former right hand, has defected. And she is the one who broke me out of Hozuki Castle. When my friends and comrades abandoned me, she was the one who took my side. Gaara stood up from his seat and put his hands behind his back as he turned around to look at the village through the small circular windows of his office. Won't you at least take a look at the message in the scroll? Naruto asked. You're putting me in a very difficult position, Naruto, Gaara said. I received word from Konoha last week that they have started sending search parties for you. And now, not only are you a rogue nin, but you've also allied yourself with one of the former Akatsuki, and all of these things happened while the 5 great nations are about to have a Kage summit a few days from now. They can send whoever they want after me. I'm not going back, Naruto said resolutely. But why are the 5 nations having a Kage summit? Why else? Because of the Akatsuki, of course, Gaara said, turning around to look Naruto in the eye. The Reiki's brother was hunted down by the Akatsuki. Specifically, Uchiha Sasuke was the one who captured him. Sasuke did dash? Naruto said, the tone of his voice and his facial expression not giving Gaara any hints in regards to his inner feelings. Yes, he had joined the Akatsuki, and they have already hunted down all the Jinchuriki except for you. And with his brother now dead too, the Reikage is hellbent on going to war with the Akatsuki and annihilating them all, starting with a manhunt for Uchiha Sasuke, of course. Then Naruto and Gaara's memories would have reacted in a very vocal manner to that news. Gaara would not have it put past him to even leave at that exact moment, and go to speak to the Reikage in person and plead for Sasuke to be spared. However, the current Naruto in front of him was silent, not showing any outward reactions. You're a lot calmer than I was expecting, Gaara said. Eventually, we all reap what we sow, was what the blonde said after a while when he realized that Gaara was waiting for him to say something. Are you not worried about him? I thought he was your best friend. I chased after him for years to bring him back to Konoha. But I have defected from the village myself. What's the point in still trying to chase him down? Naruto said and shrugged. As for being friends, I don't know about that. What do you mean? I thought I had many friends. I thought that the entirety of Konoha was my family, Naruto said. But you know as well how that worked out for me. Sasuke shoved a lightning blade into my chest, and Konoha threw me into prison. There's only so much one can take. I am only human too. With this kind of friends and family, I don't need enemies anymore. After saying that, Naruto stood up from his seat and took the scroll back from the desk. Are you leaving already? Gaara asked in surprise. I can see you don't want to talk about Amegakure. Honestly, I half expected it to go that way. Konan told me so too. After all, you were killed by the Akatsuki, and you're also the Kazekage. You've got to think about the Suna's prosperity first of all. I'll be on my way. Stay safe, Kazekage-sama, he said with a short bow and left. Gaara half raised his hand, wanting to stop him from leaving, but he gave up in the end. As much as it hurt him for Naruto to subtly tell him that he doesn't see him as a friend anymore but as the leader of a village, it was true. He was the Kazekage. He couldn't put his personal feelings and relationships before the well-being of his village. Developing a diplomatic relationship with Amegakure, Akatsuki's country of origin, and aiding a fugitive Jinchuriki like Naruto while Konoha was searching for him would not be in the best interest of Suna. Not in the least. It was night. After an entire day of traveling through the desert, Naruto finally stopped and set up camp at the base of a cairn, a pile of rocks marking the road through the desert. The nights in the desert were very cold, so he started a fire and basked in its warmth, as he ate some field rations for dinner. You're such a child, what you speak of are all fantasies. A ninja must sometimes make very harsh decisions. The words that Uchiha Itachi had spoken to him through a genjutsu in the past came to Naruto's mind as he sat down by the campfire. Sasuke had joined Akatsuki. Does that mean that one day he will come to kill me too? Naruto clenched his teeth in frustration and anger at himself as he looked back on his past actions and behavior. He could still vividly recall what Jiraiya had told him after the failed Sasuke retrieval mission a few years ago. It's not just jutsu or power if you're a ninja. Develop eyes that can make the right judgment. And if you're going to live as a ninja, become wiser. This world is no place for a fool. That's the reality. It was a rare moment of seriousness on Jiraiya's part, a rare moment when the old pervert showed the wisdom that lay underneath his degeneracy. But he had been too full of himself, claiming that he would figure out a way to bring Sasuke back even if he had to do it all alone. His power had grown immensely since 3 years ago. He had become one of the strongest shinobi in Konoha no, one of the strongest even in the world at large. However, his mentality had not matured as fast as his power had grown. He had kept on living like an overly optimistic fool, blind and oblivious to the reality of the world he lived in. And that was also why Jiraiya's idealistic dreams had captured him so, making him believe that, one day, peace could be achieved by people understanding each other. It was only after the Hozuki Castle incident that he was finally snapped back to reality, and saw the ninja world for what it truly was, a place ruled by only 3 things: strength, self-interest, and hatred. However, it was in this kind of twisted world that Konan kept her promise, and came to his rescue. Yahiko and Nagato meant everything to me. Yahiko's dream and Nagato's dream, if both of their dreams had been passed to you, then you now embody their dreams. Nagato put his faith in you. So will I. We, the Hidden Rain, will pursue their dreams together with you. Despite Amegakure's precarious situation and the fact that both Konoha and Akatsuki were now hunting him down, Konan still took him to aim and sheltered him. But I'm not the same person I used to be, he muttered. Real peace, I don't have an answer to that. I've never had one. When Nagato confronted him, Naruto didn't know what to say. He did not have an answer back then either. It was only his willingness to forgive Nagato and his optimism that convinced the older Uzumaki to entrust his dream of peace to him. However, now that that optimism was gone, Naruto realized how unrealistic his and his sensei's dream of peace had been. He felt as if he was betraying Nagato and Konan's expectations of him. They had chosen to believe in him and his ideals. But how could he live up to those ideals when he didn't even believe in them anymore? I'm sorry. I'm not who I used to be. I can't bring you the peace that you thought I would. However, as he stared at the brightly burning flames of the campfire, Naruto made a vow. Konan and her people, I will stop at nothing to protect them. Whoever threatens them, be it Sasuke or Akatsuki or even Konoha, I will destroy them. He didn't believe in world peace anymore. But he did believe he could achieve peace and prosperity for the land of Rain. The day after Naruto's diplomatic visit to Amegakure, a messenger bird flew through the open window in the Hokage's office. A message from Suna? Tsunade said in wonder when she saw the sigil on the scroll, but after unfurling it and reading its contents, she loudly called out for her assistant. Shizen. Yes, Tsunade-sama? Shizen quickly answered her call, having recognized the urgency in her voice. Send word for Kakashi, Yamato, Sakura, Sai, and Team Guy to come to my office. Hokage-dano, greetings. Today, on the 27th of September, Uzumaki Naruto came to Amegakure as a diplomat on behalf of Amegakure. For obvious reasons, I had to refuse him. Unfortunately, he left right after, and there was nothing I could do to hold him. From my conversation with him, I have learned that he now resides in the Land of Rain. I ask of you both as an ally of Konoha and as a friend of Naruto, please proceed with caution. He is not the Naruto we used to know. Not anymore. Best regards, Gaara, the 5th Kazekage. When Tsunade finished reading Gaara's short letter out loud, a silence so deep that one could hear a pin drop was instilled in the Hokage's office. I've been sending teams of Chunin and even ANBU searching for Naruto's whereabouts, but we couldn't find him for weeks. Who would have thought he would go to the Hidden Rain of all places? Amegakure? Sakura said, alarmed. Isn't that the place where Akatsuki came from? Why would he go there? That's what you need to find out, Tsunade said curtly, and Sakura became silent. Everyone straightened their posture and listened intently to what she was saying. Ever since Danzo and his Black Ops organization tried to assassinate her, it appeared as though something changed at Tsunade. Unlike her easygoing and slob-like behavior from before, these days there was a sharpness in her eyes and such an intimidating pressure that even Sakura, her pupil, didn't dare to act up or ask needless questions anymore. Niji. Your job in this mission is to ascertain whether Naruto has been placed under a genjutsu or not. Yes, Hokage-sama. Niji acknowledged her respectfully and bowed. Sakura, why yes? The girl replied and stood to attention. Naruto has always had a weakness for you. Your job is to convince him to come back home peacefully. Yes, Kakashi, Guy, and Rock Lee. Should Sakura fail to convince Naruto with words, your job will be to take him back by force. Yes, Hokage-sama, the 3 replied seriously. Yamato, you are to support them from the side. You have my permission to use your most powerful Mokuton technique to restrain Naruto if he taps into Kyuubi's power. Understood. Then, what about me? Tenten asked meekly when she saw that everyone was given a task except for her. The girl involuntarily flinched when Tsunade's eyes focused on her next. From what I understand, you've made great progress in your mastery of Fuinjutsu. Should Naruto need to be subdued and taken back by force, your job is to use your Fuinjutsu and seal his chakra. I understand. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Tenten said, her exuberant voice making Tsunade raise her eyebrows at her. What the slug Sannin wasn't aware of was that she was like an idol for most kunoichi in Konoha, and not only. The mere fact that her hard work and progress were acknowledged by none other than Lady Tsunade was enough to fill Tenten with happiness. This is an S-ranked mission, Tsunade said, and the younger shinobi and kunoichi in the room gulped at her words. Prepare yourself for the trip today. Tomorrow, at dawn, you will be leaving for the land of rain. You are dismissed. Hi! Everyone answered in a chorus and proceeded to leave the Hokage's office one by one. Kakashi, stay behind after everyone leaves, Tsunade said, and Kakashi stopped in his tracks. Once there were only the two of them left in the office, Tsunade stood up from her desk and walked in front of him. Even with his many years of ANBU experience, and numerous dangerous situations in the line of duty, Kakashi couldn't help the way his body subconsciously tensed at her proximity. It reminded him of how he felt the last time he had met Orochimaru face-to-face alone. I spared your life because Hayashi Hyuga vouched for you, saying that you had been under an extremely powerful genjutsu when you attacked me. I am thankful for that, Kakashi said with a short bow. Nevertheless, I don't trust you anymore. Make no mistakes, Kakashi. Should you ever raise your hand against your Hokage again, genjutsu or not, you'll become nothing but a smear of blood on my fist. Is that clear? Crystal, Kakashi said. As for Naruto's retrieval, this mission is your chance to redeem yourself in my eyes. Do not fail me again, Kakashi. I won't, Hokage-sama. Good. I will be leaving for the 5 Kage Summit in the Land of Iron today at noon. I hope to hear news of your success by the time I'm back. This mission is far bigger than just bringing Naruto back. Now that 8 Tails Jinchuriki has been captured as well, Naruto is the only one left. Not only for his safety but for the well-being of the whole world at large, we need to protect him from the Akatsuki. We must not let them capture him, no matter the cost. They've already gotten the other Bijou. We can't let them get their hands on the 9 Tails as well. Chapter 6 Conan's Plea. Tall towers of concrete and metal, countless power lines, a chaotic system of pipes, a sky covered by heavy gray clouds, and the unending rain pouring down every day that was Amegakure. It didn't have the beautiful weather of Konoha, the picturesque appearance of Suna, or the beauty of Kumogakure. However, to Conan, Amegakure was her home. Even as the torrential rain poured from above, Conan revealed a soft smile as she looked at the scenery below. Several hundred people were hard at work, pooling their efforts together as one to accomplish their objective. But those several hundred people were all, in fact, one person. They were Uzumaki Naruto and his shadow clones. After coming back from Sunagakure, in spite of how tired he was from the arduous trip through the desert, he went straight to work. Although Conan had already expected that result, Naruto was so disappointed with himself for not managing to secure a trading agreement that he couldn't even look her in the eyes. Cleaning up the massive wreckage and destruction left by Jiraiya's battle against Nagato was the only helpful thing he could think of doing at that moment. I think the Land of Wave would be willing to help me, but they don't have any resources that Amegakure needs. From what Conan told me, their economy is based on fishing. Naruto thought as he used an Udama Rasengan to grind to dust a particularly large piece of a broken concrete wall. He was trying to think of other solutions besides Sunagakure, but he could not readily come up with anything useful. Then, there's the Land of Snow, but it's such a small country. I wonder, do they have anything there? There's also the Land of Demons, but I don't know much about it, and Conan doesn't either. It's so far away that it takes more than a week just to get there. Buried in work and his own thoughts, Naruto didn't notice Conan watching him from the top of a nearby tower. And he didn't notice the sudden arrival of another person either. I've been wondering where the Kyubi Jinchuriki had disappeared to. I've heard about his defection from Konohagakure, but I did not expect to see him here of all places. That is great. It's like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. A deep voice unexpectedly came from behind, but Conan did not appear to be surprised by it. What are you here for? She asked as she turned around to face him. The black cloak with red clouds on it, and the one-eyed orange mask, it was none other than Tobi, or, as she and Nagato knew him to be, Uchiha Madara. Where have you hidden Nagato's corpse? You won't find him here, Conan said, and her body dispersed into a flutter of countless paper butterflies. But Tobi did not lose track of her. Following her chakra signature, he disappeared in a swirl and teleported right in front of Conan when her body materialized again. You've run away quite far. I thought you'd team up with Naruto to fight against me. After all, someone who even managed to defeat Pain is not an opponent I can take on lightly either, he said. Do you think I didn't know one day it would come to this? I knew that you would appear before me. I've been waiting for you so I could stop you. With or without Naruto here, I will take you down. A particularly strong gale blew, and a large wave almost submerged the two pieces of wreckage that Conan and Toby were standing on. They were in the middle of a gigantic lake. The lake of Amegakure was so vast that it would not be an exaggeration to compare it to an inland sea. Just because you used to be a comrade, don't think I'll show you any mercy. The Akatsuki does not put up with traitors. But I have one question. Why would such loyal members as you and Nagato both betray me? You and Nagato both approved of my Eye of the Moon plan. If you lost to Uzumaki Naruto, then it couldn't have been helped. But not only that Nagato sacrificed his life by casting Rinne Tensei for Naruto's sake, but you also broke him out of the Hozuki castle and are now offering him shelter here, in aim. Seeing Conan keep silent, Toby pressed on. Naruto Uzumaki, you think he's that worthy? He is the light, Conan said. That's why we all can carry the flower of hope. Is he now? Even after he defected from the village? Is he still the same after what Konoha did to him? Ah, no matter. Once I capture you, I'll make you tell me everything. The Rinnegan was never Nagato's, to begin with. I am the one who lent it to him as a child. Now, I shall take back what is mine. The moment he said that, two large paper wings came out of Conan's back, and she burst up in the air like a bird of prey. Hiding her body amidst a myriad of deadly paper blades, Conan dived towards him with no hesitation. Using a manifold attack, she intends to find a chance to attack me when I materialize. Fine. I know she must have some sort of strategy, but I'll take her on. I'll accept her challenge, Toby thought confidently. Several hundred paper blades passed through his body before he suddenly materialized himself, and caught Conan in a chokehold. There you are, he said triumphantly, activating his Kamui ability to suck her into the other dimension. However, by the time he noticed her trap, it was too late. Right as he activated his Kamui, several dozen paper bombs were simultaneously detonated, creating a great explosion. I will take you down with me to the afterlife, Conan thought, willing to sacrifice herself for the sake of killing him. Man, is this rain ever going to end? Naruto thought in chagrin while he and his clones were carrying rocks and other pieces of debris. The work was difficult enough as it was, but the heavy rain soaking him to the bone and hurting his visibility made it even harder. Dispelling his clones, Naruto staggered as he made his way to the tower to take shelter from the rain. Being able to create hundreds of shadow clones was great, but the drawback wasn't light, to say the least. All the exhaustion accumulated by his clones was transferred to him after they were dispelled. As he huddled up in a corner, his clothes drenched from the rain and his body dead tired, the sound of rain almost lulled him to sleep. But then, a loud explosion booming in the distance made him jump to his feet. What's going on? He said, and not minding the rain anymore, he swiftly ran to the top of the tower to get a bird's-eye view of the village. Even with his high vantage point, however, due to the heavy rain, he couldn't see traces of an explosion in the vicinity. But then, a chain of explosions started blasting one after another, eventually melding into one single extremely loud sound. It's coming from the lake, he thought, and threw himself off the tower, starting to run as fast as he could. As he sprinted towards the lake at his highest speed, what Gaara had told him several days ago came to his mind. I received word from Konoha last week that they have started sending search parties for you. Shit! He cussed and forced himself to run even faster. Did Konoha send a team to attack AIM because of me? He wouldn't be able to forgive himself if something happened to the Land of Rain because of him after everything that Conan had done for him. But when he finally came out from between the sky-high towers and saw the expansive lake of Amegakure, he involuntarily stopped in his tracks, stunned at the sight before him. As far as his eyes could see, an enormous crack seemed to have ruptured the large lake in two. My God, he muttered under his breath when he realized that, at that moment, the lake of Amegakure did not consist of water but that it was made up of paper bombs. It was the most terrifying thing he had ever seen until then. Just imagining what it would be like to fall into the crack that split the sea of paper bombs made his back break into a cold sweat. It was as if the apocalypse had come. It took no more than 10 minutes for the billions of paper bombs to finish exploding, but for Naruto, it felt like an eternity. My sacred paper emissary technique has come undone. I didn't expect it to take this much chakra, Conan said as she knelt on the surface of the water, trying to catch her breath. At least Madara is dead? Toby completed her sentence as he unexpectedly appeared from behind. A disturbing squelching sound was heard as he stabbed a metallic rod into her back, piercing out through her stomach with it. The shock of seeing Toby still alive was so great that Conan almost didn't feel the pain from being stabbed momentarily. How? You should be dead. I ran the simulations over and over. I was sure that this sequence would work. Toby pulled his makeshift weapon out of her back and kicked her away. Izanagi. I told you not to underestimate the visual prowess of an Uchiha girl. You have miscalculated. Just like you miscalculated when you chose to betray me for Naruto. In the afterlife, you and Nagato can commiserate about being fooled by Naruto's nonsense. Although he was speaking confidently, Toby too was on his last legs. The first explosion when he tried to suck Conan in with his kemiri had made him lose his right arm and left him greatly wounded, and in order to survive Conan's 600 billion paper bombs, he had to sacrifice his left eye too in order to activate Izanagi and rewrite his fate. There is no such thing as true peace. There is no such thing as hope. Nagato only believed in Naruto because he wanted to find solace in his pathetic existence. Stumbling away as she held onto her bleeding wound, Conan suddenly turned around and raised her hands up. A huge paper chakram took form above her hands, and Obito inwardly cursed at her resilience. Just like I believed in Nagato, I will also believe in Naruto, she said as she hurled the large chakram at Toby. I will be a pillar to support his dream. Nagato and I never truly believed in your goal. You are darkness. Just like you used us for your plan, we have been using you too all along. And with that, half of her body dispersed into a swarm of shurikens. Even with the visual prowess of his Sharingan, it took Toby several good moments to dodge and block all the projectiles thrown at him. But he was slowly closing the distance as he did that. Having almost no chakra left and with a fatal wound in her stomach, when he finally closed the distance and got to her, this time around, Conan couldn't disperse with another paper body flickered to avoid his lunge. You called me darkness. Well then, I shall make you wilt, Toby said, his voice filled with killing intent as he grabbed her by the neck and strangled her. He had never expected he would almost die and be forced to use Izanagi in a place like this. He had never taken Conan seriously, much less think that she had designed the almost perfect strategy to defeat him. Conan! A scream came from the side, and Toby only had time to turn his head towards the voice before someone's shin smashed into his forehead. The strength behind that head kick was so high that Toby was sent flying and stumbling for over a dozen meters over the water like a skipping stone. Conan! Conan! Are you okay? Conan! Answer me! Naruto said in a panic as he stopped her body from sinking into the water and took her in his arms. What did you do to her, asshole? He screamed at Toby, who was now getting back to his feet. What did you attack her for? Despite the orange mask that was still obscuring the bottom half of his face, Naruto could tell that the Uchiha was enraged. I had not been prepared for this scenario, Toby said, but it was more to himself rather than to Naruto. Due to not taking Conan seriously, he had almost paid the price with his life, and, on top of it all, he had not foreseen the situation where he would have to face the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki in battle while he was in such a deplorable state on his last legs while missing an eye and an arm. I took you too lightly. I should have known you would have an ace up your sleeve. After all, you were a member of the Akatsuki too. You have won this time, Conan. Savor the victory while it lasts because I will be back. You can't run from me. You cannot hide from me. I will be back soon, and I will take what is mine. Leaving those parting words behind, Toby's body disappeared in a swirl as he teleported away. A few hours later, Naruto was sitting in the hospital's waiting room, wrenching his fingers from worry while Conan was undergoing surgery. Fortunately, Toby's metal rod had not damaged the spine, and it had hit too low to puncture the lungs or other vital areas. But it was still a grievous wound. It had broken a rib and perforated her stomach too. It wasn't Konoha, it was the Akatsuki, and they weren't after me, but they were after Conan. Why did they attack her? His first thought was that maybe it was vengeance because she had left the organization, but he dismissed that thought when he remembered Toby's last words, I will be back soon and I will take what is mine. What does Conan have that he wants? When the door of the operating room opened and a middle-aged man wearing a medic's garments came out, Naruto jumped up from his seat. How is she? Was the surgery successful? Is she okay? Tell me. Everything is fine, the doctor said, and he subconsciously smiled at seeing how worried he was for her well-being. The surgery was successful, and she will make a full recovery in due time. Thank God, Naruto said in relief. It was as if a weight had been lifted off his chest. Can I see her? You can, but she is still out of it. The anesthesia has not worn off just yet. I understand, Naruto said, but before he could go inside the operating room to see Conan, the doctor said, Young man, thank you for saving her life. Lady Conan is far more important for Amegakure than you might think. After Pain-sama's passing, she is all that stands between AIM and the 3 large powerful countries surrounding us. At this moment, she is irreplaceable. Inwardly, Naruto was surprised that the medic knew about Pain's death because Konan had kept that fact under wraps from the general population. He must be one of the higher-ranked shinobi in AIM, he thought. When my village and my friends cast me away, it was Konan who came to rescue me. Saving her life is the least I could do, Naruto said seriously. Also, before he passed away, I promised Nagato that I would bring peace to Amegakure. I want to protect Konan and Amegakure, they are the only things that I have left. The doctor patted him on the shoulder in understanding. Konoha's elders and the Hokage must have lost their minds if they cast aside someone like you. But their loss is our gain. We are happy to have you here, Uzumaki Naruto. The smell of antiseptic and the sounds of monitoring machines in the background let Konan know even before opening her eyes that she was in the hospital. She was so groggy and drained that just opening her eyes felt like a chore. She had to blink several times before her eyesight finally focused, and the first thing she did was check what was the pain in her arm coming from, and 4 was slowly pumping blood in her veins to replenish what she had lost. Taking in her surroundings, she realized that she was not alone in the hospital room. As her amber eyes fell on the boy snoozing with his head on the edge of her bed, her expression changed into a gentle smile. She had no doubts as to what would have happened if Naruto had not intervened when he did. Although her plan had been flawless, and she had almost killed Madara with her strategy, she had never imagined that the Sharingan would have such a ridiculous power, the ability to rewrite reality. All those paper bombs, wasted. Amegakure's precarious financial situation at the moment was not only due to its lack of commerce with its neighboring countries. Collecting over 600 billion paper bombs had cost her a fortune. Much of the Akatsuki funds that she and Nagato had saved up over the years were spent on buying those paper bombs. But it was all for naught. In the end, Madara escaped, but she shook her head to banish those thoughts for the moment. At least I am still alive. I owe Naruto my life, Konan thought, bringing her hand to caress his messy and spiky blonde hair. Although Naruto was exhausted from having worked in the rain with several hundred clones, and then watching over Konan for many hours after her surgery, he was so concerned with her well-being that even when he finally fell asleep, it wasn't a deep slumber. The moment Konan put her hand on his head and caressed him, he woke up. However, he did not open his eyes. Her caresses were so gentle that he wanted her to never stop. Nobody had ever touched him in such a manner until then. Eventually, still anemic and tired from how much blood she had lost earlier that day, Konan fell asleep once again. Naruto did not move her hand away from his head. Instead, he continued lying with his head on the bed and put his hand on top of hers. Knowing that she had finally woken up and that she seemed to be fine, Naruto finally allowed himself to relax, and, in spite of the rather uncomfortable position he was sitting on a stool lying with his head on the bed, he fell into a deep sleep this time. As he woke up the next day, Naruto found himself in a completely different place than he remembered. Instead of being in Konan's hospital room, he was back in the room where he had lived ever since he had come to AIM. Once he was done with his morning rituals and put on a new change of clothes, he went to the canteen used by the personnel working in Pain's Tower to have breakfast. If there was one thing that the Land of Rain did not lack in the least, it was food. Amegakure had an abundance of rice, tomatoes, fish, and reptiles of all kinds. That being said, although he avoided dishes based on lizard meat and other oddities, he still had a rich meal. Soon after he was done, a masked shinobi AIM's version of ANBU, he thought, came to his table and said, "Lady Konan requests your presence in her office as soon as possible." "Understood," Naruto replied, standing up. "Is it okay for you to be out of the hospital bed already?" was the first thing Naruto asked when he stepped into Konan's office. "Naruto, you are here," she said as a form of greeting. "I won't lie and say I'm already healed. But there are some things that I must tell you, some things that we must do that are far more important than my comfort." When he saw how she propped herself on the desk to stand up, he quickly went to her side and helped her. "Don't push yourself too much," Naruto said. "Don't worry, I am fine," Konan said, smiling at the concerned look on his face. "If you want to go somewhere, I'll carry you instead." "You're in no condition to walk so much or use your chakra now," Naruto said as he turned around and lowered his body for her to climb on his back. Konan was not the type to hesitate, beat around the bush, or pretend that she was embarrassed. She slowly leaned her body against his and wrapped her arms around his neck as she got on his back. Wrapping her legs around his waist when he stood up, she sighed in relief as she rested her chin on his shoulder. "Thank you, Naruto." Her breathy voice so close to his ear and the feeling of her womanly body flush against his back made his skin break into goosebumps. "You're welcome," he said, clearing his throat in embarrassment. inwardly hoping she did not notice how flustered he was at that moment. So, where do you want to go? I will guide you. Follow my instructions. Okay, he said, and as he started walking, he grabbed onto her thighs to further support the weight of her body. Make a right now, she said, and he did as he was told. Now take that elevator. Press on the button leading to the basement. A few minutes into their walk, Naruto could not bear the silence anymore, so he asked, How is your wound? Am I walking too fast? Does it hurt? It's not fully healed, but it hasn't opened. My paper jutsu helps greatly when it comes to bandaging and healing from stabbing or cutting wounds. I see. It's good to hear that. After 2 minutes, Naruto tried to start a conversation again. Why did that Akatsuki member attack you yesterday? He came after something that belonged to Nagato, she answered. We are going there now to retrieve it. Beautiful, Naruto uttered when the two of them finally arrived at their destination. It was a very tall and spacious hall with a domed ceiling supported by thick round columns. The orange and purple marble floor resembled the rings of a Rinnegan eye, and the bed of white paper roses and the exquisite carving of angels on the wall behind it gave it a stunning appearance. On the bed of white paper roses, 2 preserved bodies lay with their hands interlocked on their chests. They were Yahiko and Nagato. You can put me down now, Konan said softly, and Naruto squatted to help her get back on her feet. Leaning on Naruto's forearm as she walked, Konan slowly led him to stand in front of Nagato. After a moment of silence, she said, The masked member of the Akatsuki came here in order to steal Nagato's Rinnegan. But the Rinnegan does not belong to him. The Rinnegan belongs to Nagato. It is a national treasure of Amegakure. I cannot let it fall into his hands. Who is that man? I saw he had a Sharingan eye, but, as far as I know, Sasuke is the only Uchiha left. Is he an Uchiha too, or did he steal the Sharingan from someone else? Naruto asked. He calls himself Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara? Naruto said in surprise. He had hardly paid any attention to the academy as a kid, but even he had heard of that name before. Didn't Uchiha Madara and the first Hokage die a very long time ago? I do not know whether he truly is Uchiha Madara as he claims or not. But he does have the Sharingan, and he is one of the most dangerous shinobi in the world. According to the information that Nagato and I have collected on him, he is the one who caused Kyuubi's rampage in Konoha on the day of your birth. He was behind the bloodline massacres of Kirigakure, and he had manipulated the Mizukage from the shadows with his genjutsu. Hearing her words, Naruto finally connected the dots. He had still not forgotten the warnings of his father's chakra remnants from a few months ago. He could still remember how the fourth Hokage told him to be wary of the man with the one-eyed mask. If he's so dangerous, shouldn't we destroy the Rinnegan? We can't let him get his hands on such a powerful Dijutsu. Nagato was the strongest shinobi I have ever seen in my life. The Rinnegan is too powerful to let it fall into the wrong hands. At his words, Konan bit her lower lip. Rationally, she knew that he was right. She also knew that Tobi would be unable to proceed with his plan without the Rinnegan. He wouldn't be able to control the power of all the tailed beasts, and the demonic statue of the outer path without it. However, I can't do it. This is all that I have left of Nagato. She couldn't bear to destroy the last vestige of Nagato. As an orphan living in a cruel world riddled with war and death, Yahiko and Nagato were all that she had ever had. And after Yahiko's death, she had grown to treasure Nagato even more than ever before. The two of them had been her family. Naruto didn't know what to say at that. Inwardly, he wondered what he would have done in her place, but he could not find an answer to that question right away. I cannot let the Rinnegan fall into Uchiha Madara's hands, but I can't bear to destroy it either. Saying those words, Konan turned to look at him, and she took his hands in hers, her amber eyes peering into his. I want you to have it, Naruto. Konan, I don't know, Naruto stammered, overwhelmed by the importance of the request she had just made. You're carrying the dreams of both Yahiko and Nagato. You are their legacy. I want you to take Nagato's Rinnegan. Please, she pleaded, her eyes boring into his soul. Chapter 7 Vow. Konan, I don't know, Naruto said, overwhelmed by the importance of the request she had just made. You're carrying the dreams of both Yahiko and Nagato. You are their legacy. I want you to have Nagato's Rinnegan. Please, she pleaded, her eyes boring into his soul. Those words made his grip on her hands subconsciously tighten as he looked down, unable to keep eye contact with her anymore. But I'm not the same person I used to be. His voice shaking, he became silent. I'm sorry, Konan. You and Nagato believed in me, and I promised Nagato that I would never give up on Jiraiya-sensei's dream of peace, but I can't believe in that dream anymore. Even before, I didn't have an answer to Nagato's questions. All I had was optimism and hope that things will be better one day, but Konoha took that away from me. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. His voice broke towards the end, and against his will, tears started falling from his eyes. Konan did not say anything in response. Letting go of his hands, she wrapped her arms around him, gently nudging him into her embrace. That silent gesture of affection and support was the proverbial last straw that broke the camel's back. All composure was lost as he buried his face in her shoulder and cried his eyes out. All the frustration, all the anger, all the sadness, and all the suffering that had been bottling up inside of him for years were let out at that moment. He had never cried in front of other people until then. He had always shown everyone a strong front and a happy face. It was the first time he broke in front of someone else like that. It took him a long time to finally calm down and for his tears to dry, but Konan didn't say a word through it all, only offering him a shoulder to cry on. When he finally regained his composure and broke from her embrace, he looked down, too embarrassed to meet her eyes. There is no shame in crying. We all cry sometimes, Konan said softly, knowing what he was feeling at that moment. Some of your pain, I understand it. Growing up as an orphan, being betrayed, and struggling to make ends meet. As a Jinchuriki, you must have had a tough life. Even so, you are here. You have survived. You have persevered. You're not crying because you're weak. It's because you've been strong for too long. Her words nearly filled his eyes with tears again. I know you will overcome this moment too. I believe in you, Naruto, Konan said. Gently cupping his cheek with her hand, she raised his head to look him in the eye. If you doubt yourself and if you think that you are unworthy, remember that Nagato and I have entrusted our dreams to you because we believed in you. If you can't believe in yourself now, believe in Nagato, who has put his faith in you. Believe in me. I will never abandon you, Naruto. That last sentence made his lower lip tremble. It was as if she knew exactly what he was thinking. It was as if she could read his heart like an open book. You're carrying Nagato's and Yahiko's dreams of peace. I will repeat the promise that I made to you back in Konoha. Even if the whole shinobi world is out to get you, Amegakure and I will stand at your side. That declaration left him speechless for a while. World peace, I don't have an answer for that. Never had. I realized over the past few weeks how immature and naive I used to be, Naruto said eventually. So, before thinking about peace and prosperity for the world at large, I should find a solution to Amegakure first. What are you doing? Konan said, startled when Naruto suddenly dropped to his knees in front of her and took her hand in his. I don't think I deserve Nagato's gift. But I will believe in you two who have put your faith in me, he said, and he brought the back of her hand to his forehead. Nagato's eyes, I will use them to protect Amegakure. I swear. As long as I draw breath, I will protect you. It's a promise of a lifetime. Stand up, please, Konan said, and Naruto got to witness the look of her flustered face for the first time. Seeing the faint rosiness blooming in her normally pale cheeks, he couldn't take his eyes off her for a while. A mixture of feelings blossomed in his heart. Was it gratitude for her support and kindness? Was it amazement at her porcelain-like beauty? Was it admiration for her faithfulness and loyalty? Or could that actually be? He paused, not daring to continue that train of thought. Was there truly a need to put a name to it? What he felt at the moment was enough. All he knew was that for the first time since he was thrown into the blood prison, he was relieved and almost happy. They were silent on their way back to Konan's office. Even so, it was not uncomfortable. Naruto couldn't put his finger on it, but even he knew that a subtle change had occurred in his relationship with Konan. She was no longer just Aim's leader and her savior for him. She became something more. Before we infiltrate the village, please keep in mind one thing. Don't underestimate Amegakure, Kakashi said when he stopped and turned to look at the rest of the members of his team. Amegakure may not be as powerful as the 5 elemental nations, and individually, Aim Shinobi may not be as strong as you, but they are numerous. Furthermore, they are very skilled in the arts of genjutsu and assassination. Last but not least, remember that we are in the middle of enemy territory. Taking Naruto back by force should be our last resort. If Amegakure mobilizes all their forces, we might not come out of this alive. We can't hope to take on all of them by ourselves. Back in his days as an ANBU captain, Kakashi had not had to make such obvious remarks, but with inexperienced people like Sakura and Tenten or muscle heads like Rock Lee and Guy in his team, he felt the need to remind everyone how dangerous and delicate their mission was. It was not deemed an S-class mission for no reason. Guy, if you will, Kakashi said. Guy bit his thumb to the point where he drew blood before going through a series of hand seals and saying, Kuchios no Jutsu. A big plume of smoke filled the surroundings, and a few moments later, everyone could see an enormous tortoise appear in front of their eyes. Its head alone was almost as big as a house. "It's been ages since you've last summoned me, boy. What's the occasion?" A loud female voice came from the huge tortoise, startling almost everyone there. "Haha, it's good to see you, Granny Kamiko. I have a favor to ask." "Of course you do," the tortoise said. Guy coughed into his fist and cleared his throat before saying, "We need to infiltrate Amegakure. But it's almost impossible to go there on foot without them detecting us." Amegakure was surrounded from all sides by an enormous lake, and the only way to get there on foot was through 2 bridges. Of course, as shinobi, they could walk on water or even swim underwater for longer periods of time without needing to breathe as often as civilians would, but that would not stop them from being detected. Even after Pain's death, Amegakure's security was still top-notch. "I could do it, but you do know the price, yes?" "Of course I do." "Then I'll be relying on you, Granny Kamiko," Guy said and bowed from the waist. Tenten, Sakura, and Niji instinctively stepped back when the huge tortoise suddenly opened her mouth. "Guy-sensei, don't tell me you're expecting us to," Tenten began to say, only for Guy to grab her by the back of her neck like a kitten and throw her into the tortoise's huge maw. "We don't have time to waste." "Everyone, step inside," Guy said, and, although reluctantly, the rest listened to his words and let themselves get swallowed by the gigantic summoned creature. Once everyone got inside, the boss tortoise closed her mouth, and her size unexpectedly shrank until she was no bigger than a palm-sized turtle. "I swear to God, I'll never forgive you for this, sensei," Tenten said in an angry whisper while trying to wring her soaked clothes. After she took the Konoha shinobi and kunoichi in her belly and shrank her size, the boss tortoise swam through the lake and went up one of the sewage pipes until they arrived in the middle of the village. By the time they were spat out, everyone's hair and clothes were soaked with saliva and other liquids from the tortoise's stomach. Sakura was gritting her teeth too, but she knew better than to make a scene. "How is it outside, Niji?" Yamato asked the Hyuga, who was checking their surroundings with the Byakugan. "There are only civilians as far as I can see. We seem to be close to a shopping district." "All right. I'll go out of the sewers alone and bring back someone we can interrogate," Kakashi said. "Are we going to torture someone?" Rockles said, gulping nervously. Being in the middle of his first S-class mission made his imagination run wild. "We don't need to torture anyone. Kakashi can just use his Sharingan Genjutsu to force out any information he needs, painlessly," Yamato explained, and Rock Lee secretly sighed in relief. At the same time, in another part of the village, Naruto was sleeping soundly despite being in the middle of the day. The eye transplant surgery was not a difficult operation for the advanced medical techniques of the shinobi, but the patient still had to be administered an anesthetic and put to sleep for it. While the operation had been quick and successful, Naruto had yet to come out of his slumber. Instead, his consciousness moved to another place. The ankle-deep pool of water on the floor, the sound of dripping water, the semi-darkness, and the numerous pipes running along the walls made it impossible for him not to recognize what that place was. "Whoa!" he shouted, startled when he looked at his reflection in the water flooding the floor, and involuntarily took a few steps back. Instead of the bright blue irises he had inherited from his father, the cold, steely purple color of the Rinnegan dwelled now in his eye sockets. "What would Bachan think if she saw me like this now? Or Sakura or Kakashi-sensei?" he absent-mindedly asked himself, but he dismissed that thought right away. With how things were between him and Konoha at that moment, it was irrelevant. No matter, he thought, shrugging. It's not like I'm going to see them any time soon. More importantly, why am I here? After his father repaired and strengthened the seal, his connection with Kyubi was cut off almost completely. Nevertheless, he figured that him being there had something to do with the fox, and his thoughts were on the money because, when he finally arrived in front of the enormous gates, Kyubi's enormous face was stuck to the bars, his malevolent eyes watching him intently. "How did you get the eyes of the sage? What's it to you?" Naruto shot back bluntly. Kyubi growled as he stood up on all fours and started circling around his cage restlessly. "How did you get the Rinnegan?" He roared again and slammed his clawed fist into the gates violently. Naruto observed the Bija's actions silently. "You look scared." It was the first time he had seen the fox behave like that. Usually, it was just hatred and contempt. Sometimes, it was hatred and wariness, like the last time Uchiha Sasuke came face to face with him due to his Sharingan. But it was never outright fear. Kyubi didn't reply, but his growls increased in intensity, his slit crimson eyes glaring murderously at his jailer. Naruto let out a sigh and sat down on the water in a cross-legged position. Whether it was because of the anesthesia or because of the fact that his new Rinnegan eyes were draining a large amount of chakra from him, he wasn't sure why, but he was exhausted. "I thought you could see everything through my eyes," You always knew the perfect moment to push your chakra into my pathways to make me go berserk, or to heal me. I can't see anything. Not anymore. There is only silence. There is only darkness. Before the fight against pain, Kyuubi had been able to see everything that happened outside through Naruto's eyes. After Jiraiya weakened Naruto's seal, Kyuubi could even feel Naruto's emotions and some of his thoughts. However, after Minato repaired and strengthened the seal, the nine-tailed demon fox was cut off almost completely from Naruto's senses. He didn't know anything that transpired in the several weeks that followed Pain's invasion. He didn't know about Naruto's imprisonment, his defection from Konoha, or his new allegiance to Amegakure. Naruto winced when he heard that. After spending nearly a week in solitary confinement at the Blood Prison, he gained a new understanding of what Kyuubi must have felt about being imprisoned, and he's been imprisoned for many years. For decades Nagato was right. If you don't share someone's pain, you can never understand them. Standing up, he came closer to the gates and looked into the fox's eyes searchingly. I got these eyes as a gift from... Gift? You don't deserve those eyes! Kyuubi screamed, barely able to contain his rage. Despicable humans! You're not worthy to have his eyes. You're not worthy! Kyuubi roared and smashed his claws against the gates again. He was so enraged that he was panting. I know that, Naruto said quietly. His answer took Kyuubi completely by surprise, and he became silent. Until not long ago, I was just an immature idealist. I didn't see the world for what it was. No, deep down, I've always known, I've always seen it. But I chose to ignore it. All I thought of was to bring Sasuke back to Konoha and become the Hokage. Life was simple when I had the horse tax on my eyes. What happened after Akatsuki's invasion? Kyuubi asked, his voice much calmer than before, curiosity winning over rage. Naruto didn't hide anything. He told him about Uzumaki Nagato's change of heart at the end. He told him about Konoha's betrayal only a few weeks after he saved everyone's lives. He told Kyuubi about how they tried to take him back by force, and how they've now sent teams to capture him. And he also told him about Konan, and how he became a rogue nin and sided with Amegakure. I told Konan that I don't deserve Nagato's eyes. I'm not worthy to carry their dreams of peace. The world we live in is ruled by hatred. Look at us too. You were imprisoned in this seal by the first Hokage. In hatred, when you broke out, you killed my mother and tried to kill me too. But then you were sealed again inside of me. You were imprisoned against your will once more. After making a pause to catch his breath, he continued, world peace is too far away. Is that even possible? He said rhetorically. How can I dream of world peace when I can't even make peace with you, who share my body, or secure the land of Rain's well-being? Man and Fox were silent for some time, deep in thought. Do you know of a way to weaken the seal a little? Naruto asked after a while. Why would you want to do that? Kyuubi said, his eyes narrowing suspiciously at him. I was thrown into prison a few weeks ago too. I spent most of my time there in the hole. Now I understand a little what it's like for you to be imprisoned in this place, especially when it's so unfair for you too. Yandame's chakra remnant told me you were being controlled by the Sharingan the night that you attacked Konoha. Kyuubi growled at the reminder of that night. I can't trust you enough to open the gates completely. After all, I don't want to die just yet. I made a promise. I vowed to Konan that I would protect her for the rest of my life. I promised that I would protect Amegakure, but, at the same time, I don't want you to suffer any more either. I'm not a seal master. I don't know, Kyuubi said, this time his voice becoming rather low and quiet. I'll try asking Konan about it when I wake up. Nagato was good with Fuinjutsu too, from what I know. Maybe there is a solution in the scrolls and books he left behind. With that, he turned to leave. But after taking a few steps, Naruto stopped and said, It won't be in a few days, it won't be in a few weeks either. I don't know how long it is going to take me, but I promise that one day, I will set you free, not just you but the rest of the Bijou too. You aren't as mindless or insane as everyone thinks you are. You shouldn't be used as weapons, you shouldn't be imprisoned. How do you feel? Someone asked, and Naruto recognized that breathy, warm vocal timbre right away. It was Konan. I feel kinda dizzy, Naruto said, a tired smile appearing on his face. You will probably need a few days for your body to become accustomed to the Rinnegan's drain. Your voice is so beautiful. It's calming and soothing. It sounds like music, Naruto unexpectedly said, startling Konan. Is he still not fully awake? Is he still feeling the after effects of the anesthesia? Konan thought. He had never complimented her so out of the blue until then, and he had been living in Amegakure for several weeks already. You think so? Konan asked. Of course. I'd never lie to you, Konan. You're my favorite person in the whole world now, Naruto said with a sunny smile. Yes, it's definitely the anesthesia's after effects, Conan reasoned. But why is it dark? And why am I tired? Naruto slurred and tried to take off the bandages covering his eyes. No, wait, don't take them off, Conan said, and she grabbed his hands, preventing him from ripping off the bandages. You're not fully healed yet. Doctor said you'll have to keep them at least for 1 or 2 days. Ooh. Okay, he said. But how can I see you smile if my eyes are closed? When waking up from anesthesia, people often speak without any filters or inhibitions. In fact, that was also an interrogation technique that some shinobi used in the past when the traditional methods of extracting information, like torture and genjutsu, didn't work, making use of drugs to induce a state of delirium in the prisoners and weaken their mental defenses. Conan rarely smiled, much less laughed, in her daily life. Most of her subordinates have never even seen anything except a stoic expression on her face. However, at that moment she found herself giggling at his words. His loony smile, his sunny disposition, and his innocent compliments were positively adorable. You will see me smile tomorrow, she said, ruffling his hair gently. You promise? I want to see you smile every day. I can't make any promises, but I will try, she conceded. I spoke with Kyubi when I was asleep, you know? He was really mad. Shouting something about the sage's eyes. Conan's expression immediately turned serious at those words, and she took his hand in hers. What did he say? He was punching the gates, Naruto said and giggled. But he couldn't budge them. He was a little scary. What did Kyubi say about the sage? What sage? Conan asked. He said humans are bad. And that I don't deserve the eyes. Conan let out a sigh. It was hard to keep a coherent conversation with Naruto with how out of it he was at that moment. But I didn't let his words get to me. Naruto continued. I told him that Conan believes in me, so I believe in Conan. You said that? Yes. Conan is the best. Conan knew that it was mostly sleep talk because Naruto wasn't thinking straight, but she also knew that there was no smoke without fire. She understood at that moment just what kind of place she held in his heart because, ever since he woke up, he wouldn't stop talking about her. You know, Konoha wants me to go back. But I will not. Even if Sakura comes to beg me, I don't want to. What will you do when they come? I will kick their asses and send them back. My sage mode is super uber powerful, you know? Of course I know. I saw your fight against Nagato. That afternoon, Conan stood at Naruto's bedside and talked to him for more than an hour until a medic administered him some pills and put him to sleep again. It was not a very productive talk, to say the least. However, it had relieved much of the stress and tension that she had accumulated over the months that had passed since Nagato's death. Leading a hidden village wasn't an easy task, especially when it was in a precarious financial situation like Ames. Naruto's post-anesthesia talk was so wholesome and adorable that she felt as if it had healed her soul. Later that night, there was only a candle lit at Naruto's bedside as he slept in the hospital room. Due to Amegakure's new curfew to preserve their coal reserves, the whole cityscape was plunged into darkness. While the hospital was one of the few buildings that still had access to electricity, most of the lights were still turned off. The electricity was mostly used for the apparatus that was keeping alive the patients who were in critical condition. With the hallways covered in semi-darkness, the 2 chunins who were tasked with guarding the entrance to Naruto's room didn't notice the 3 shadowy silhouettes sneaking up on them before it was too late. A palm strike to the back rendered one of them unconscious, and a chop to the neck knocked the other one out cold too. When they opened the door, the flickering light coming from the candle on the nightstand revealed their appearance. The pale, pupilless eyes of one of the intruders and the silvery spiky hair, and the crimson-red eye of the other betrayed their identities right away. They were Hyuga Niji and Hatake Kakashi. As for the third intruder, it was a slender girl in her late teens dressed in a traditional white chipao blouse and a pair of baggy red trousers. It was Tenten. Understanding the hand signals Kakashi made, Niji activated his Byakugan and started scanning his surroundings. In the meantime, Kakashi signaled towards Tenten and the girl took out a sealing tag from her pouch and made a ram seal to infuse her chakra into it. But right as she was about to stick the sealing tag on Naruto's forehead, a hand shot up abruptly and caught her wrist in a vice-like grip. Chapter 8: The Battle of Amegakure. Just as Tenten was about to stick the sealing tag on Naruto's forehead, a hand shot up abruptly and caught her wrist in a vice-like grip. The girl didn't even have time to react before she was yanked by her arm and thrown straight through the window on the opposite side of the hospital room. Tenten! Niji cried out and jumped out the window after her to rescue her. Due to Niji's shout, Naruto understood right away who the ones that had attacked him in his sleep were. Niji and Tenten Konoha finally made a move, huh? Naruto said as he got up from the bed. To think you'd even go as far as to attack me in my sleep when I'm in the hospital. Since their preemptive strike had failed, Kakashi stepped forward in an attempt to salvage the situation before it could escalate any further. We're not trying to hurt you, Naruto. Secretly infiltrating Amegakure, sneaking into my hospital room in the middle of the night, and attacking me in my sleep. I may not be as smart as Sakura, but do you think I am that stupid? Our plan was to talk it over with you at first. But you were unconscious, and we couldn't afford to spend God knows how long waiting for you to wake up. Trust me, Naruto, I would never willingly hurt you. You are my student. While Kakashi was talking, Naruto heard the sound of the footsteps of half a dozen people approaching from the corridor. Was I not your student when you threw me into prison? Naruto shot back, his voice almost cracking due to his building rage. In the ninja world, those who break the rules are scum. That's true, but those who abandon their friends are worse than scum. That's what you told us years ago. Do you remember? I wonder what attacking the one who saved your fucking life makes you. What kind of trash not only betrays the one who saved their lives but even tries attacking them in their sleep? Naruto-kun, we were in the wrong for not trusting you, yes, but we're sorry. Nobody thought you were actually guilty. Sakura, who had arrived a moment ago, said. Her voice sounded as if she was holding back tears. Come back with us to Konoha, we all need you there. Lady Tsunade misses you. And I miss you too, Naruto. I never realized how much I cared about you until you left. I think I'll love you. I don't know when I fell for you, but my heart. As she was talking, Naruto brought a hand to his face and ripped the white bandages wrapped around the upper part of his face. At the sight of his eyes, Sakura choked on her words and involuntarily stepped back. You love me? She was not the only one who reacted that way. Even Kakashi and Yamato subconsciously took a step back, their hands going to the kunai pouches strapped to their thighs, and Madogai got into a fighting stance. When Naruto opened his eyes, instead of the warm and bright blue eyes that everyone was familiar with, his eyelids revealed the cold and steely purple color of the Rinnegan. The deathly silence that was instilled in the hospital room made his voice sound eerie when he spoke next. Shinra Tensei, an unearthly sound rang, and then the outer walls of the hospital room were obliterated, with the Konoha Nins all getting blasted out violently. Lee! Get a hold of yourself! Guy shouted while shaking Rock Lee's shoulders. Naruto's hospital room was located on one of the uppermost levels of the tower that served as the hospital. The full brunt of the almighty push, followed by his fall from such a great height, had left him unconscious. He can't be reasoned with, Yamato said. What are we doing, Captain? We follow the mission, Kakashi said in a defeated voice. Guy-sensei. Everyone. What happened? Tenten shouted as she and Niji arrived at the place where they had crashed. The two of them had been lucky enough not to get caught in the almighty push. Naruto got Pain's Rinnegan, and he attacked us, Kakashi explained, standing up as all traces of hesitation left his voice. If he has the Rinnegan, I don't think it's possible for him to be under anyone's genjutsu. He attacked us of his own free will. He has no intention of returning to Konoha. But sensei, it's still Naruto. Sakura pleaded with tears streaming down her cheeks. You knew what you signed up for when you accepted this mission, Sakura, Kakashi said, not in the mood to entertain her feelings at that moment. We have 4 to 5 minutes tops before the Amegakure troops swarm us. We're on borrowed time now, Kakashi said as he removed his headband from his eye, revealing his Sharingan. Sakura, take Rock Lee and run to the sewers where Guy's summon is waiting for us. Don't question my orders, he said sharply. Due to how emotional she was, Kakashi did not want her to drag the entire team down with her crying or doing something dumb like trying to get between them and Naruto to defend him. Besides, someone had to take Rock Lee to safety. Guy, no feeling out process, no testing the waters. We don't know how many Rinnegan techniques he can use, so don't underestimate him. Start with the 5th gate directly and go up to the 7th gate if necessary. Yamato, protect us from all the incoming aimed shinobi and kunoichi. Don't spare any chakra, use your largest area of effect technique. Niji, engage in taijutsu together with Guy and shut down his tenketsu. Tenten, don't interfere until I give you the signal. Be prepared to seal his chakra at any moment. Everyone, don't pull your punches. Remember, even without the Rinnegan, in his sage mode, Naruto is not the type of opponent any of us can fight fair and square in a one-on-one. As long as you don't kill him, go all out. Letting out a shout of acknowledgement, everyone got ready to follow their orders. Mokutan, deep forest emergence, Yamato said and slammed his palms on the street below. Branches, roots, and tree trunks broke through the concrete and rose towards the sky, enormous trees rivaling in height even the tens of meter-tall skyscrapers of Amegakure. With the hospital tower as the center, An entire district of the city was covered by a gigantic forest. I won't be able to control this jutsu for long, Yamato said, his forehead already drenched in sweat. Don't worry, Yamato-sensei. You won't have to, Naruto said as he landed in front of them. Come with us willingly, Naruto, Kakashi pleaded. This is the last time I ask you this. Don't make us do this. Don't make us fight you. If someone unrelated heard you speak, they'd think I'm the villain in this story and that you're the good guys. After saying that, an orange pigmentation appeared on the side of his eyes. Even in the darkness of the night, the orange markings of his sage mode made a stark contrast with the steely purple color of his Rinnegan eyes. I'll send you packing back to Konoha, Naruto said, and 2 shadow clones appeared behind his back. Kakashi's eyes widened as he recognized the wind technique Naruto was about to cast when the 2 clones started molding chakra in the hand he raised above his head. Fast. Normally, it took Naruto several good seconds to create a Raisin Shuriken, which was a very long time in a fight between elite shinobi. However, for some reason, the Raisin Shuriken formed instantly this time. His Sharingan eye morphing into the pattern of the Mangekyo, Kakashi shouted right as Naruto threw the devastating wind jutsu at him. Kamui, I knew you were going to do that. Kakashi heard Naruto's voice coming from behind him. He had been so focused on Kamui-ing away the Raisin Shuriken, and Naruto's body flicker movement was so fast that Kakashi was caught completely off guard. He only had time to turn his head back and see the glowing sphere of blue chakra heading towards his face. Konoha Senpu! Guy screamed, and his whirlwind kick smashed mercilessly into Naruto's head, sending him flying. The blonde crashed so hard into a nearby building that he left a human imprint on its outer wall. Naruto wasn't allowed even a moment to catch his breath, as Neji appeared at his side in an instant, and shouted, 8 trigrams, 128 palms. However, to his shock, the first 10 lightning-fast gentle fist jabs he threw at him were all parried, and Naruto even counterattacked with a punch of his own. His taijutsu is still not up to par. Neji thought as he easily weaved through the seemingly sloppy swing and was about to resume his onslaught of gentle fist attacks when a cracking pain in the side of his face made him see white for a moment. The next moment, Neji found himself flying through the air, unable to control any of his body's movements. He didn't even know what had hit him. The frog kata was almost impossible to defend against when faced with it for the first time. Even after crashing onto the ground, that senjutsu-empowered strike was so powerful that Neji couldn't muster any strength to get back up again. He slipped into unconsciousness. However, right after knocking Neji away, a lightning beast pounced on Naruto from behind and shocked him. Even with the enhanced physical ability granted by his Sage mode, Naruto was paralyzed for a second. Nice, Kakashi! Guy yelled out in approval and then shouted, 5th gate, gate of closing, open! A vivid green aura burst from his body, and his pale skin turned a reddish-brown color. Leaf great flash! Guy yelled, throwing a head kick so powerful that it triggered a shockwave in its wake. An even louder shockwave rang when his shin smashed against his target, except that it wasn't Naruto's head. No freaking way! Tenten exclaimed in disbelief when she saw Guy's ferocious kick being stopped by Naruto with a single hand. Team Guy had been away from Konoha on a mission during Pain's invasion, so they hadn't seen Naruto's Sage mode in person. All they knew were stories they heard from others. They didn't know that, in his Sage mode, Naruto's physical strength enhancements were so insane that he could make craters with his punches, crush boulders in his hands, and throw around dozens of tons effortlessly. If I fought you seriously, both Neji and you would be dead now, Naruto said, and Guy winced when Naruto's grip on his leg tightened to the point where his bones started creaking. Unable to hold her cool any longer, instead of listening to Kakashi's orders to not interfere in the fight, Tenten unfurled a large sealing scroll, and 3 throwing javelins appeared in her hands. Let Guy-sensei go! She yelled and threw all 3 javelins at Naruto in quick succession, with deadly accuracy. Unfortunately, that proved to not be a very bright move as Naruto yanked Guy by the leg and threw him into the trajectory of the javelins, using him as a meat shield. The worst-case scenario did not come to pass, however, seeing as, at the very last moment, a mud wall rose from the ground between Guy and the incoming javelins courtesy of Kakashi. Kakashi had just finished casting the earth technique when Naruto lunged at him with another Rasengan in his hand. He managed to dodge the Rasengan by ducking under Naruto's lunge and came back with a chakra-enhanced uppercut only for Naruto to blow up into his face. It wasn't the real him. It was a clone, and not just any clone but an exploding clone. Yamato also happened to shout from the distance at that moment, "The Ain troops have started attacking in full force. My Mokutan Jutsu won't last much longer." Rock Lee and Neji having been knocked out, Kakashi getting gravely injured by the exploding clone that blew up in his face, and Yamato's exhausted appearance as he struggled to hold back dozens of aimed shinobi that were trying to breach the giant forest he had created as Mato-gai took in the situation, his facial expression hardened. I've never used my 8 inner gates to their fullest power against an ally before. Despite your defection from Konoha, I still considered you one of my students and one of my comrades. However, you leave me with no other choice. I am sorry, Naruto. As Guy said those words, he got into a stance with his hands crossed in front of his face. The veins on his forehead looked like they were about to burst when he shouted, "The 8 inner gates, 6th gate. Gate of joy." As the cloak of green chakra around Guy more than doubled in intensity, Naruto got a bad feeling. Raising his hand and aiming it in his direction, he shouted, "Shinra Tensei!" A massive force exploded from his hand, blasting Guy away like a leaf in a hurricane. The force of the almighty push was so powerful that it sent Guy flying through a tower and even destroyed the deep forest emergence technique in which Yamato had poured the entirety of chakra to cast. However, much to Naruto's disbelief, although battered, bruised, and bleeding from countless scrapes all across his body, Mato-gai was still standing when the Rinnegan technique ended. With the last drop of his strength, Guy screamed, "The 8 inner gates, 7th gate, gate of shock, open!" As Guy took a stance with one of his palms forward, a feeling of danger washed over Naruto. One of the Toad Sage mode's abilities was to sense danger. If I let him complete that move, I will die. Time seemed to slow down in his perception as a mixture of feelings bubbled in his heart. Disbelief that someone from Konoha would even go as far as to seriously try to kill him, frustration at himself that he had not incapacitated Guy when he had had the chance, unwillingness to leave the world of the living behind with so much unfinished work and so many unfulfilled promises, and, at last, a feeling of rage suddenly exploded from his chest. It was an overpowering emotion that extinguished any other feelings he might have had. At that moment, as he made a tiger seal, Guy thrust his hands forward and screamed, "Hirad dash!" A split second before Guy could finish launching the ultimate move of his 7th gate, Daytime Tiger, Naruto raised his hand and shouted, "Bansho Tenin, Hyu!" Guy let out a grunt of surprise as he was unexpectedly yanked forward against his will. But even as he was being pulled forward, he maneuvered his body into a flying kick position, intent on taking Naruto's head off if he maintained the technique until the end. Guy's flying kick never reached Naruto, however. A screeching sound suddenly filled the air. Then, Guy's body was split in half cleanly by a Raisin Shuriken. Tenten and Yamato watched in horror how the devastating wind technique not only killed their comrade but even reduced the rest of his body to atoms. Guy was dead, Kakashi, Niji, and Rock Lee were knocked out, and Yamato was on the brink of fainting due to chakra exhaustion. Tenten lost the feeling in her legs and fell to her knees in despair. As she glanced up at Naruto, overwhelmed by panic and terror, the stony expression on his face and his inhuman Rinnegan eyes made him look especially menacing. From her distorted point of view, she did not notice the tears that started falling down his cheeks. "Yo, Sasuke!" An orange-masked man with a single eye appeared out of nowhere in front of Sasuke and his team, causing them to abruptly stop in their tracks. I didn't sense his chakra. He appeared out of nowhere. What's going on? Karen couldn't understand it. Nobody had ever fooled her senses before, due to her Kekkei Genkai. "How did you know where to find me?" Sasuke asked, his eyes narrowing at him. As far as he knew, he and his team had been traveling under the radar for the past several months, staying out of the public eye and plotting their next course of action. "Don't underestimate me," Toby said. "I have considerable powers. So what do you want with me now?" Sasuke cut straight to the point. "Taka left the Akatsuki. We're done with you. As it stands, you reneged on your promise to me," Obito said. His words made everyone in Sasuke's team become alert and prepared for battle. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about hunting the tailed beast. We already caught the 8 tails and delivered them to you," Karen said. "That was just a clone. A special clone technique, but a clone nonetheless. You've been fooled. In other words, you guys failed." While Sasuke was thinking back on the moment of his fight with Killer Bee in an attempt to discover when the Jinchuriki managed to escape, Toby continued, "Frankly, I'm disappointed in you all. So what are you going to do about it?" Suigetsu shot back snarkily. "It's none of our business now." "Nope. You will finish whatever work you started as members of the Akatsuki, but, having said that, forget about the 8 tails for now. I've decided to give you a different task." "And if I refuse?" Sasuke asked. "Then we'll fight it out right here. And you won't be able to go to the Hidden Leaf Village. Alas, it's too late for you to go to Konoha now either way. Konoha has already been destroyed." Sasuke, whose hand had just been engulfed by lightning, suddenly froze at his words. What do you mean by that? What the hell happened? How would Konoha just get destroyed overnight? You've been living under a rock in the past 2 months. Or what? Toby said, but he did not continue to antagonize him, and told him the short version of the events that had transpired. My subordinate, Pain, destroyed the Hidden Leaf Village. And since both you and Pain were a bit too overbearing, the 5 Kage are now in the middle of a summit. And what does that have to do with me now? Sasuke said belligerently. You don't get it, do you? Toby said with a shake of his head. With Pain dead, as of now, you have become the most wanted person in the elemental nations. And especially with how cocky and reckless you've become, I'll give you 1 year at most before you end up dying in a ditch. At Sasuke's scoff, Toby asked a question. Tell me, Sasuke, have you ever seen a rogue nin from Amegakure? Thrown off by the seemingly random question, Sasuke didn't reply. My bad, it was a poor choice of words on my part considering you're almost blind now, Toby said mockingly. When is the last time you heard about rogue ninjas hailing from Amegakure? That's right, you haven't. Not in your lifetime. Do you know why? The Cloud Village has the most disciplined, numerous, and relentless Black Ops shinobi in the world. The Akatsuki had members from Suna, Iwa, Kiri, Konoha, and other minor villages. But none from Kumo. Kumo always takes care of its trash. Why are you telling me all of this? Sasuke shouted, starting to lose his patience. Get straight to the point. Toby shrugged uncaringly at his outburst and said, honestly, at first, my plan was to break into the Kage summit and declare war on the 5 great elemental nations. But I ran into quite the unpredictable situation. Suigetsu and Karen both started laughing at him. You wanted to declare war on the 5 great hidden villages? All by yourself? Ha! You're out of your mind, Suigetsu said, holding on to his belly with his hands from laughing too hard. Ignoring the 2 that were clowning on him as if they were beneath his notice, Toby spoke again. I want you to help me retrieve something from one of the former members of the Akatsuki. You were going to declare war against the whole world. Beating up some rogue ninjas should be a piece of cake for someone with your considerable powers. The sarcasm in Sasuke's words wasn't lost to Toby if the narrowing of his eye was anything to go by. Konan proved to be way stronger than I had expected. Looking back, she must have been one of the strongest members we had. I shouldn't have underestimated her considering she was the one who defeated Sasori and forced him to join, but that is not here nor there. Her power is hardly a problem. I won our little scuffle when we clashed, but I had not expected to see the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki come to her aid. Sasuke's face morphed into an expression of surprise. Naruto? Yes, Toby confirmed. Don't look down on him. He's not the same person you used to know. He's proven his strength when he defeated Pain. He is stronger than you now. But why would Naruto help a member of the Akatsuki? He's a Jinchuriki. It doesn't make sense. I must have forgotten to tell you Uzumaki Naruto has defected from Konohagakure. What? Sasuke couldn't believe his ears. Of all people, Naruto became a missing nin? Naruto, who had chased him all over the continent in the past 3 years, trying to bring him back to the village? Honestly, his reaction was perfectly justified. No, if I had been him, I would have probably burned whatever was left of the village to the ground before leaving. Regardless, this is what I want you to do. Assist me in retrieving my possessions from Konan, the leader of AIM. You don't have to participate in the battle against her or the rest of the AIM shinobi. All you need to do is keep Uzumaki Naruto busy while I deal with her. Why would I do that? And don't tell me that you'll offer me protection. I can take care of myself just fine, Sasuke said. He had recently defeated the full form of the 8-tailed demon beast, and its Jinchuriki too. Sasuke was so confident in the power of his Mangekyo Sharingan that he couldn't envision a scenario where he would lose to anyone anytime soon. Your vision is worsening by the day. The more you use your Mangekyo Sharingan abilities, the faster you will lose your sight. Do you remember these? Toby said and took out a sealed flask containing a green liquid and 2 eyeballs. At Sasuke's grim look, Toby said in a self-satisfied voice, That's right, I still have your brother's eyes. Sasuke glared at Toby, all the while mentally kicking himself for not having the presence of mind after his battle with Itachi to take away and preserve his body. But in all fairness, Itachi's remains were the last thing on Sasuke's mind after their battle due to how overwhelmed by emotions he was at that moment. You do understand what I mean, don't you? Toby said when he saw that Sasuke kept silent. Of course I do. Then do we have a deal? All right. But I want to get the eye transplant before the fight. His words could be interpreted in 2 ways. Either that he did not trust Toby to hold his end of the bargain if he waited until the end of their job to get the eyes, or that he did not want to go to battle without Itachi's eyes and risk becoming blind in the middle of it. That's fine with me, Toby said with a shrug. Whether Sasuke had Itachi's eyes or not, to him it was all the same. Either way, he did not think Sasuke could pose a real threat to him. Let us go to our hideout. Do not resist. Saying those words, Toby took the Taka team into his Kamui dimension and disappeared in a swirl. Chapter 9. After the battle. As the rest of the Amegakure shinobi and kunoichi apprehended the surviving but unconscious Konoha intruders and Konan sealed them with her paper ninjutsu, Naruto looked blankly at the destruction left behind by their battle. I had no choice, he muttered quietly. After Guy opened the seventh inner gate, his sage mode senses and his survival instincts screamed at him that he would die if Guy completed his attack. It was a kill or be killed situation. Done with sealing the invader's chakra, Konan glided through the air and landed in front of him. Due to the fact that it was raining heavily, nobody noticed his emotional struggle after killing Guy. By the time she came to him, he had somewhat regained his composure. How are you feeling? She asked, looking searchingly into his eyes. Do you notice any discomfort or pain? No discomfort. No drain on my chakra either. I think my body accepted these eyes fully. But more importantly, these aren't all the ninjas sent by Konoha. 2 more have run away towards the sewers. We have to capture them. Can you find them with your sensory technique? An expression of surprise appeared on her face at his words. They sneaked into Amegakure and attacked me in my sleep, Naruto explained himself. This battle also injured many of our people and caused so much destruction. Former comrades or not, Konoha and I are past the point of reconciliation. I see, Konan said, and her body split into countless tiny paper butterflies that dispersed and quickly covered the entirety of Amegakure. A few minutes later, the paper butterflies converged again, and Konan materialized next to Naruto. I have found them, 2 teenagers, a girl and an unconscious boy. Turning to one of the close-by Black Ops shinobi wearing a rebreather, she said, take a team of 10 chunits and guard the end of the main southeastern sewer pipe where it spills into the lake. Understood. The Jonin said and disappeared with a body flicker movement. Now looking back to Naruto, she said, you've done enough for the day. I'll go capture those 2 myself. I want to see this through to the end. Putting a hand on his shoulder, she squeezed it softly as she said, you were in the hospital until not long ago, and it's the first time you used your Rinnegan eyes. Rest for now. I have a feeling we won't be getting much rest in the days to come. Okay, he said, caving in eventually. Despite being underground and almost 1 kilometer away, Sakura could still hear the sounds of battle between her comrades and Naruto. No matter how hard she tried, she could not banish the image of those inhuman-looking eyes from her mind. That pair of Rinnegan eyes made him look like a completely different person. But it wasn't only his eyes that were different now. The tone of his voice while speaking to them, the lack of warmth, and the rage bubbling underneath that calm exterior as someone who had been one of his closest friends, if not the closest, Sakura could pick up on all those signs clearly. How could he have changed that much in such a short time? Not even 3 months have passed since the Hozuki Castle fiasco. The Kazekage did warn them in his short letter that Naruto appeared to be a completely different person, but she had not thought he was going to be that different. She was shaken from her thoughts when the tortoise boss suddenly let out a weary sigh. Yet another one of my contractors died. It wasn't sadness. The tortoise's voice sounded resigned. What do you mean? Sakura asked, momentarily unable to understand the reality of the situation. That youngster, Guy, lost his life. Died ahead of his time, just like his father. Sakura was mute with surprise. No way, she said eventually. You must be mistaken. Guy-sensei is one of the strongest jonins in the village. There's no way he would die in a place like this. I don't believe it. Ignoring her rambling, the tortoise boss said, my summoner is dead. I have no reason to help you anymore. You are on your own now. Leaving those words behind, the creature disappeared in a plume of smoke, returning to her realm. Several minutes later, Sakura was still overwhelmed with thoughts of disbelief. It was only when a swarm of paper butterflies appeared in the sewer seemingly out of nowhere, and a blue-haired woman wearing the infamous Akatsuki black cloak with red clouds materialized in front of her eyes that she finally came back to her senses. Akatsuki, she said warily, taking a fighting stance in front of the still unconscious Rock Lee. Your comrades have already been defeated. This is the end of the road for you. I suggest you give up and come quietly. Lies. There's no way Guy-sensei, Yamato-sensei, and Kakashi-sensei would lose to the likes of you, Sakura shouted, and before Konan could say anything else, the pink-haired girl lunged at her with a scream. Shinaro, cocking her fist back, Sakura threw the strongest chakra-enhanced punch that she was capable of. Under her devastating power, Conan's body burst into countless tiny pieces. At least that was what Sakura naively thought at first. She realized a second later that her enemy dispersed into a swarm of paper butterflies and reappeared at her back completely unharmed. Out of consideration for Naruto, I wanted to not harm you too badly, but it looks like you don't plan on coming along quietly. After saying those words, Conan became silent. Her stoic, pretty face and the rest of her body seemed to split like the pages of an open book, and the sewer was flooded with a swarm of countless paper sheets. Sakura could only punch and kick the air around her desperately as she was drowned in a sea of deadly paper blades, each one of them carving deep and painful cuts into her flesh. Feeling the threat of death, black markings spread from the seal on her forehead and covered her entire body as she activated her strength of 100 technique, healing up her numerous injuries in an instant. Confident in the regeneration ability of her jutsu, Sakura gave up on defending herself completely and lunged at Conan once more. However, unfortunately, she did not have an answer to Conan's paper kawarimi. Instead of harming Conan, her punch blew a huge hole into the sewer ceiling, revealing the downcast sky outside. Alas, her efforts did not amount to much in the end. Conan's paper technique was a hard counter to most fighters that specialized in taijutsu and bukijutsu. If Sakura's efforts had little effect even in an enclosed space like the sewers, when she blew up a hole in the ceiling and opened the sewers to the world outside, she unknowingly cemented her fate. However, by the time Sakura realized that she had dug her own grave, Conan had already flown up in the air. No! If she flies too high up, I won't be able to reach her. With Conan's flight advantage, she would become just a target practice for her paper projectiles. Grabbing an enormous chunk of concrete from the broken sewer ceiling, Sakura screamed as she threw it at Conan. I won't let you get away. That piece of debris had to have weighed several tons. It was an attack that could smash an average shinobi into nothing but a smear of blood upon contact. However, at that moment, a sound of a blade whooshing through the air was heard, and that huge piece of debris was split cleanly, from the middle. The next thing Sakura knew, her right arm was also looped off from the shoulder. A scream of agony was ripped from her throat, and she collapsed on the ground, holding the stump of her bleeding shoulder with her other hand. Submit, or die, Conan said one last time as the large paper chakram returned to her side, whirring menacingly above her head. But the pink-haired girl didn't reply. She appeared to have gone into shock, staring in disbelief at her severed limb on the ground. Gravely injured but mostly because of her lack of mental fortitude, Sakura couldn't put up any resistance when a vortex of paper sheets engulfed her and wrapped around her like a mummy, binding her from head to toe. Hours passed, and the morning came. Although the sun was up now, the clouds covering the sky were so thick and dark that it looked as if it was evening. It was raining heavily again. Sipping from the mug of hot tea in her hands, Conan was watching over the village through the large windows of her office. Lady Conan, Uzumaki Naruto wishes to speak to you, one of her bodyguards informed her. Let him in. A few moments later, as Conan turned to greet him when he came through the door, an expression of surprise flashed on her face. Battered, wet, and dirty from the fight last night, Naruto ditched his regular clothes and put on another set of clothes given to him by Conan. Compared to his flashy orange tracksuit, which always made him stand out, his current attire was rather plain: dark blue joggers, a black jumper, and a gray Amegakure-style Jonin flak jacket. So you've made your final choice, Conan said. Was there any doubt after I took Nagato's eyes? Besides, I've never had any intentions of going back. I made you a promise, didn't I? Naruto said and grinned. As long as AIM doesn't turn their back on me like Konoha did, I will be here. Always. I think it suits you. I'm happy to have you here, Naruto. The two of them were not talking about Naruto's new attire. Those clothes were nothing to write home about. They were talking about the new shinobi headband resting on his forehead now. For the first time in his life, he was wearing a shinobi headband that did not belong to Konoha. Instead, the metallic plate showed 4 vertical lines. It was the symbol of the hidden rain. You're the first to wear the new headband of Amegakure. Congratulations, she said, smiling at him. Following Hanzo's death at the hands of Nagato, after Akatsuki took over Amegakure, the new symbol of the village was the 4 vertical lines slashed through by a horizontal line. It signified their hatred and rejection of Hanzo and the previous regime of Amegakure. However, now that Naruto had taken on Nagato's Rinnegan eyes, Conan decided that it was time for AIM to step out of the shadows of the past and look at the future with hope. She renounced the slash-through headbands and adopted the original symbol. Naruto was given the honor of being the first to wear the new type of headband. Thank you, he said sincerely. He couldn't help feeling touched inwardly. In spite of everything he had done for Konoha, he had always been treated by his peers like a bum. Everyone from his generation had been promoted to a chunin, or even a jonin rank except for him. Even after saving the village from pain, they still didn't promote him. He was still a genin despite having become one of the most powerful shinobi in the village. But now, it was different. He finally had a rank that fit his strength and abilities. Now, he was a jonin. Conan smiled at him again. In the back of her mind, she noticed that she had been smiling a lot more often ever since she rescued Naruto from Hozuki Castle. What do you want to do with your former comrades? She unexpectedly asked after she finished congratulating him. I am not sure. Although they had invaded Amegakure and attacked him when he was at his weakest, while lying in a hospital bed after surgery, Naruto could not bear the thought of killing them in cold blood after they had been defeated. What do you think we should do? He asked her. Normally, there are two paths we could take. First, we could squeeze all the intel they have on Konoha through any means necessary, and after they are dead, we could examine their bodies to unearth their secret techniques. In Hitaki Kakashi and Hyuga Niji's case, we would also extract their dijutsu and use them for Amegakure's sake. There is also the possibility of keeping the Hyuga and the Mokuton users alive and locked up in order for them to produce offspring with their Kekkai Genkai. Naruto involuntarily started frowning when he heard those words. It sounded terrible. But this is the ninja world, this is the world we live in. He knew Conan was not lying or exaggerating because he had been in Orochimaru's secret bases before, and had seen traces of his experiments. He was also aware of Kumogakure's attempt to kidnap Hyuga Hinata in the past for the sake of obtaining the Byakugan. But he had not thought about it too deeply before. Single-mindedly pursuing his dream of becoming the Hokage and making Sasuke come back to the village, he ignored everything else. The other choice would be to treat them as war prisoners and try to strike a deal with Konohagakure no Sato to trade them in exchange for various goods, techniques, or even money. Done explaining, Conan looked into Naruto's eyes while asking, "What do you want to do with them?" "I am leaving their fate in your hands. It is your choice." Despite no longer thinking of them as his precious people, years of being comrades with them did not get wiped clean after only a few months of being away from Konoha. If possible, Naruto did not wish for them all to die or suffer like that. Maybe we could try to trade them in exchange for resources? We could make Konoha trade large amounts of coal and other things that Amegakure needs. Kakashi is a very important figure in the village. He was an ANBU captain in the past. Yamato has the legendary Mokuton bloodline limit, and Sakura is the Hokage's prized disciple, Naruto said hesitantly. If that is your choice, then that's what we are going to do, she said calmly, taking a sip from her mug of tea. Thank you, Conan. Even he could understand that if it were the leader of any other hidden village, they would never pass up on the chance to get their hands on three of the most powerful Kekkai Genkai in the world, the Mokuton, the Sharingan, and the Byakugan. He was not so dense as to not understand what a huge favor Conan was doing him at that moment. Nearly 4 days had passed since the Battle of Amegakure, but Naruto had yet to visit the Konoha prisoners even once. Instead, he had been away from the village, spending those days in an uninhibited place not far from the border with Iwagakure. He had chosen that spot because a rocky terrain was more useful for his training than a swamp. Bansho Tenin. As he said those words, a large boulder got yanked out of the ground and flew at him with great speed. Simultaneously, a shadow clone next to him raised his hand and yelled, "Shinra Tensei!" Caught between the attractive and repulsive forces of those two techniques, the boulder exploded, unable to handle the pressure. It's great that I can bypass the 5-second cooldown of the Deva path if I use shadow clones, but this shared vision is so troublesome. It'll take me some time to get used to it. Nevertheless, the temporary loss of the ability to create large numbers of shadow clones was hardly a minus when he looked at the absurdly powerful techniques of the Rinnegan. Momentarily making a ram seal with his hands to better concentrate on his task, another 2 pairs of arms grew out from his shoulders, and 2 other heads popped out from his neck too, giving him the appearance of a mythical Azura. "I still can't get used to this, man. You look creepy as hell," his shadow clone said, shuddering. In response to that, one of Naruto's extra arms transformed into a cannon, and a chakra blast obliterated the clone. He was so used to his clones getting killed in fights that the memories of the clone he had just destroyed didn't perturb him in the least. It might look creepy, but having 3 heads gives me 360-degree vision, and the extra pair of arms could give me a big edge in taijutsu, especially if I combined it with my senjutsu, and if the enemy doesn't expect it. Following that train of thought, Naruto started performing the katas he had learned from the toads by using all 6 of his arms simultaneously. From a spectator's perspective, it looked strange, even silly, how he fumbled and how his arms sometimes collided against each other during movements. It was hard for the human brain to control so many extra limbs perfectly without training. But he was not discouraged. It all boiled down to the amount of work he was willing to put in, and he had never shied away from training. Back in Amegakure, one of Naruto's shadow clones was sitting on a sofa in the living room of his apartment, and reading a scroll. Given that it was evening, past the curfew, he was straining his eyes to understand the tiny scribbles under the pale light coming from a small gas lamp. I should call it a day. It's late, and I need to preserve my chakra too, the clone thought. Rolling back the scroll, he put it on the coffee table and lied down on the sofa on his side with an arm under his head. He was about to fall asleep when he heard someone knocking on the door. Naruto? Are you still awake? Conan's warm, quiet voice came from behind the door. Yes, one moment, the clone said as he got up and went to open the door. Hey, what brings you here at this late hour? He asked as he invited her in and led her to the living room. I wanted to talk to you. Is it a bad time? No, I've been reading until not long ago, he said, gesturing towards the pile of scrolls on the coffee table. Ah, Nagato's Fuinjutsu scrolls, she said in understanding. Have you found what you've been looking for? It's too complicated for me. I don't understand much of what's written in them. I told you as much, didn't I? She said, and he was treated to the beautiful sound of her soft laughter. It takes a long time and a lot of studying to become adept at Fuinjutsu, and if you don't know the basics, it'll be useless to attempt the more advanced sealing techniques, especially the ones created by the Uzumaki clan. Ugh, I hate studying, he moaned. But I made Kyubi a promise. I can't give up just because it's hard. Then you should start with the basics and slowly work your way up. I'm not a seal master like Nagato, but I could guide you up until an intermediate level. You just want me to draw storage sealing scrolls and exploding tags for yourself, don't you? Naruto said, looking at her suspiciously. He felt something inside him flutter when he heard her laughter again. Well, you need to start from somewhere, don't you? She said with a small grin and rested her chin on her palm as she looked at him. He found it physically impossible to tear his eyes away from her. Whether it was because of his gradually evolving feelings for her or because of the increased vision offered by his recently acquired Rinnegan, he was not sure, but he was becoming increasingly aware and conscious of her beauty as a woman. Those bright orange eyes of hers in particular were mesmerizing. I'm sure boss will be happy to help you if you asked him. I know I would do it, and we're pretty much the same, he said with a grin too, rubbing the back of his head. When is he coming back? She asked. I don't know yet. But he will give me a sign when he wants me to summon him here. While Naruto didn't know what his clones were thinking and feeling until after they were dispelled, due to his Rinnegan eyes, he shared their sight nowadays. All he had to do was put it into writing, and his clone would be able to understand what he wanted regardless of the distance. Oh, he said he wants me to summon him now. The clone suddenly said and stood up. Getting up from the sofa, the clone went to the open side of the room and, after a short sequence of hand seals, he placed his hand on the floor. Kuchios no Jutsu. As the original Naruto stepped out of the plume of smoke, the clone smirked at him and said, You're so lucky, boss. After the clone was dispelled, Conan involuntarily started smiling at the sight of Naruto's face getting red, no doubt due to the thoughts and memories he received from his shadow clone. The summoning technique of the Rinnegan is so convenient. As long as I carry these black receivers, my clones can summon me anywhere, he said, trying to push away the not exactly family-friendly thoughts he had received from the clone. Looking at Conan, he suddenly got an idea. Would you like to carry one of these as well? I think it would be great to be able to summon you away in times of need. I already carry one of those. It's right here, she said, touching her lower lip with her finger. You mean that piercing is made from this stuff? He asked, looking at the small elaborate piercing under her bottom lip. But then, outside of his control, his eyes darted away from her small piercing to her lips. Their pink color, their delicious fullness, and their moist, slightly glossy appearance that, yes, you can summon me anytime. So absorbed was he in admiring her lips that when she spoke, he was almost startled. But if Conan noticed his eyes lingering on her lips longer than was appropriate, she did not mention it. She merely smiled. How did your training go? Have you become more familiar with your Rinnegan's abilities? I still have a long way to go. I can control Deva Path's attractive and repulsive force as well, but Chibaku Tensei is too difficult at the moment. It explodes after a few seconds. I'm also struggling with the Azura Path. It's so hard to control 6 pairs of arms at once, and I haven't had a chance to train the human path, the Naraka path, or the outer path. As for the animal path, nothing comes up when I'm using the summoning technique. Preta path is the only one I can use perfectly. He scratched his hair with both hands in impatience. I suggest you focus on the Deva path and the human path for now. Why? In preparation for the next time Uchiha Madara comes back. I've been thinking of ways to defeat his ability, Kamui, but my options are limited after such a short time and due to Amegakure's current financial situation. It took me several years to gather all those paper bombs, and Madara still won because of his Sharingan, she said in a dejected voice. Her strategy, all her preparation, and the fortune she had poured into the plan, all for Madara to cast Izanagi and rewrite his fate. Not all was for naught, however, she said. Although I lost the battle, I gathered another piece of information from it, something that will be vital in our preparation for our next battle. But first I will share with you what I already know about his abilities. As far as I know, Madara has 4 main abilities: becoming intangible, teleporting himself, teleporting other people or objects, and rewriting his destiny at the price of losing a Sharingan. I'm not completely sure, but I suspect his intangible state is automatic, so surprise attacks might not work on him. How are you supposed to hit him? How did I manage to kick him in the face? He asked. His ability is very strong, but, even so, it's not perfect. Every jutsu has a weakness. In Kamui's case, it has a maximum duration of only 5 minutes, and he cannot attack you while he is intangible or teleport away. He needs to materialize first before doing that. Therefore, the only strategy one could think of was to bait him into materializing himself and counter-attacking him at that exact moment. What I discovered in our last fight, though, was that even though he is intangible, his body still follows the laws of the world. Naruto tilted his head in confusion at her last sentence. What do you mean by that? Sorry, I was never good with that type of stuff. Conan hummed in thought for a few moments before saying, when I split the lake underneath his feet and detonated all those paper bombs, Madara turned himself intangible to escape from the explosions. But I noticed that even though he became invulnerable, the force of gravity still pulled him down. That means that the attractive and repulsive forces of your Rinnegan should affect him even in his intangible state. So even if his space-time technique makes him invulnerable, his body is still affected by the laws of physics like gravity. I think I understand, Naruto said, deep in thought. But even if the Deva Path abilities work on him, how will they hurt him if he's intangible? That's where I come in. I will prepare another death zone for him. Not just one but several of them for the case where he tries to cast Izanagi again. Your job will be to make him walk into my traps, and I'll deal the finishing blow. Will you be able to get that many paper bombs in again in a short while? I won't be using explosive tags this time around. I have a different plan now, she said confidently. What if Naruto escapes Hozuki Castle Harem? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.